welcome back, or welcome for the first time. This video brings long, eerie, scary stories from abandoned places and lost locations, told slowly to help you rest. If you enjoy the atmosphere, like, subscribe, and comment your location. Settle in. Story 1. The night the staff vanished mid-shift, leaving every key card in place. I took the job at the Aurora Grand because I was out of options. After the layoff at the data center, a strategic optimization, they called it, I'd burned through my severance paying off Dad's medical debt. The apartment complex gave me 3 days to vacate after I missed rent twice. When the Craigslist ad popped up, night auditor urgent, 18 HRI plus room, no background check. I didn't question why a luxury hotel in downtown Seattle would hire someone with no hospitality experience. I just showed up at 10 p.m. on a rain-lashed Tuesday, my backpack smelling of stale coffee and desperation. The Aurora Grand wasn't grand anymore. Once a 1920s jewel with gilded ceilings and crystal chandeliers, it now huddled between skyscrapers like a forgotten relic. Its marble lobby was scratched and dull, the gold leaf peeling like sunburnt skin. The night manager who interviewed me, Martha, according to her tarnished name tag, moved like a ghost herself. Pale, trembling hands. She never made eye contact. Shifts 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., she rasped, leading me past empty concierge desks and velvet ropes coated in dust. Front desk only, no housekeeping, no room service, just answer phones, log deliveries, reset the thermostats in vacant rooms, and never touch the staff key cards. Staff key cards? I asked. She stopped at a brass elevator. The doors slid open with a groan, revealing a cabin lit by a single flickering bulb. Every employee wears one. Blue plastic, magnetic stripe. They're sensitive. If you find one on the floor, leave it. Don't pick it up. Don't look at the number. Her eyes darted to the mirrored walls of the elevator, especially not in the reflections. The room they gave me, Suite 412, was on the 4th floor. Complimentary accommodation for night staff, Martha said, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. The suite was opulent but decaying. Damask wallpaper peeling at the seams, a chandelier misses half its crystals, a 4-poster bed with a mattress that sagged like a hammock, and directly across from the door, dominating the far wall, hung a full-length mirror in an ornate silver frame. It reflected the room with unsettling clarity, making the space feel both larger and infinitely smaller. Lights go out at midnight for energy conservation, Martha added, handing me a key card on a frayed lanyard. Yours is black. Only opens this suite and the front desk. The blue cards open everything else. Everything. She paused at the elevator. One more thing. At 3 a.m., you'll hear the staff elevator chime. Don't answer it. Don't look. Just wait it out. She vanished into the elevator before I could ask why. Midnight came. The lobby lights dimmed automatically, plunging the space into gloom, broken only by emergency exit signs and the glow of my computer monitor. I logged into the front desk system, Aurora Grand Management Suite VO.1, and scrolled through room statuses. 87 vacant, 3 occupied, all on the top floor. No check-ins tonight. Just me and the silence. At 12:47 a.m., the phone rang. I jumped. The sound was jarringly loud in the hushed lobby. I grabbed the receiver. Aurora Grand, night auditor speaking. Static. Then a child's voice, thin and watery. Is Eleanor there? Eleanor? I don't think. Room 217. the voice whispered. She promised she'd read to me. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. Room 217 was vacant, had been for weeks, according to the log. I checked the system again. Vacant. I made a note. Possible prank call, verify line security. At 1:15 a.m., I heard the first key card. It wasn't a sound. It was a presence. A cold spot near the elevators. I looked up. There, stuck in the card reader of the staff-only elevator, a blue key card. Its lanyard dangled like a noose. I remembered Martha's warning. Don't pick it up. Don't look at the number. I turned away, typing furiously at the computer, pretending not to see it. But in the reflection of the monitor, I caught the card's number. 47ers. Just a glitch, I told myself. Someone forgot it. At 1:38 a.m., another one on the concierge desk. Blue plastic gleaming under the emergency light. Number 22, then one on the marble floor near the lobby restroom. So 9. Another taped to the vending machine. 35. They kept appearing, always when I wasn't looking directly, always in my peripheral vision or reflected surfaces. The lobby filled with them, scattered like fallen leaves. Each card felt heavy, watchful. At 2:59 a.m., the staff elevator chimed. Ping. The sound echoed in the dead air. I froze, my hand hovering over the mouse. Martha's warning screamed in my head. Don't answer it. Don't look. I stared at my screen, at the glowing cursor on the room log. The elevator door slid open with a soft whoosh. No footsteps, no voices, just the smell drifting out. A sweet, cloying scent of roses and wet earth, like the air after a grave is dug. I kept my eyes down, counted to 10, 20, 30. The doors sighed shut. The chime echoed again as it closed. Ping. Silence. I exhaled, trembling. That's when I saw the security monitor. The lobby camera feed showed the staff elevator doors opening at 3:00 a.m. Sharp, empty. But the camera in the third-floor hallway C, showed something else. The blue key cards, dozens of them, not scattered, arranged. Laid out on the carpet in a perfect spiral, starting at the elevator doors and winding toward room 314. At the spiral's center lay a single item, Martha's name tag. I rewound the footage, watched the timestamp tick backward from 3:01 a.m. to 2:58 a.m. The hallway was empty. Then at 2:59:47, the key cards began to fall, not from hands, from the air itself. They fluttered down like dead leaves, landing with impossible precision. At 3:03, the elevator doors opened on an empty shaft. And for 3 frames, less than a tenth of a second, a shadow flickered in the mirror at the end of hallway C, tall, thin, its head brushing the ceiling tiles. I vomited in the wastebasket under the desk. The front desk phone rang again. I let it scream into voicemail. When it stopped, a new sound took its place, a rhythmic thump, thump, thump from above, from the 4th floor, my floor. It was slow, deliberate, like something heavy being dragged across carpet. Thump, thump, thump. It stopped outside my suite door. I held my breath. The doorknob didn't turn, no scratching, just silence. Then a soft clink, something sliding under the door. I crept forward. On the Persian rug lay a blue key card, number 400. My suite number. I backed away, heart slamming against my ribs. The thump, thump, thump started again, fading down the hall toward the emergency stairs. I waited until the sound vanished before peeling the card off the rug with a pen. It was ice cold. I dropped it into the desk drawer and locked it. At 4:17 a.m., I found the staff room. I was checking thermostat settings on the 3rd floor when I noticed it. A door labeled Employees Only. Behind a potted fern. The handle turned easily. Inside was a time capsule of ordinary lives interrupted. Coffee mugs sat half full on a table, steam long gone, but the smell of burnt beans still sharp in the air. A sweater draped over a chair. A phone screen lit up with a text thread. "You coming to Jen's B-Day?" Followed by "Running late, shift from hell." But it was the key cards that froze my blood. They weren't scattered. They were displayed. Taped to the walls, stuck in the microwave, wedged between the pages of a dog-eared romance novel. Every blue card in the hotel, I realized with dawning horror. Over 100 of them, each labeled with a name written in shaky handwriting on masking tape. Martha, Chen, Diego, Priya, Ben. And one on the bulletin board, circled in red marker. Eleanor. Beneath Eleanor's card hung a Polaroid photo. A woman in a 1970s floral dress stood before the Aurora Grand's original marquee, smiling wide. Her eyes were bright, alive, on the back, in the same handwriting as the names. She promised she'd read to me. She lied. The microwave beeped. I hadn't touched it. The door swung open. Inside sat a single blue key card on a paper plate. Number 1000. I ran. Back at the front desk, I called 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. "Aurora Grand Hotel? What's your emergency?" "Everyone's gone. The staff. They vanished. There are key cards everywhere." "Sir, calm down. Which room are you calling from?" "I'm not in a room. I'm the night auditor. Look at your logs." "I don't see any active reservation for a night auditor tonight. The Aurora Grand has been closed for renovations since October." The line went dead. I checked the computer. The room log was gone, replaced by a single line of text scrolling endlessly on the screen. They forgot to remember us. Now we remember them. The lobby lights died. Only the exit signs glowed, casting bloody light on the sea of blue key cards scattered across the floor. The staff elevator chimed. Ping. The doors opened on darkness. From within came the smell of roses and wet earth, stronger now, and a sound I hadn't heard before. A low, wet clicking, like teeth snapping together. I grabbed my backpack, sprinting for the main doors. They were locked, bolted from the inside. I pounded on the glass. The street outside was empty. No cars, no people, just fog swallowing the city lights. In the reflection of the glass door, I saw them, dozens of figures standing in the lobby behind me, not solid, translucent, wearing hotel uniforms from different eras, bellhops and pillbox hats, maids in frilly caps, concierges in bow ties, all staring at me, all holding blue key cards. At the center stood Martha. Her face was smooth, blank, no eyes, no mouth, just pale skin stretched tight over bone. In her hand she held key card. 1000 Da. She raised it slowly, pointing toward the staff elevator. The clicking sound grew louder, closer. It wasn't coming from the elevator shaft. It was coming from the mirrors. I turned. Every mirror in the lobby, the one behind the front desk, the ornate one by the grand staircase, the small one in the elevator bank, was rippling like water. From the glass, pale hands emerged, reaching, grasping. The clicking was the sound of their jaws working in the void between reflections. I ran for the emergency stairs. The door was propped open with a blue key card. 13 I slammed through it, taking the steps 2 at a time. On the 4th floor landing, I froze. The mirror at the end of the hall was gone. In its place yawned a dark archway, not a doorway, an opening torn in the fabric of the wall itself. Beyond it lay not the next floor, but a forest at twilight. ancient pines, a still black lake, and standing on the shore facing away from me, a woman in a 1940s floral dress. Eleanor, from Camp Everstill, from the Ravenswood Grand. She turned. Her face was bloated, blue-tinged. Water weeds tangled in her hair. In her hand, she held a blue key card. Number 315. She smiled. "You heard me calling," she gurgled, lake water bubbling between her lips. "I get so lonely in the between." I stumbled backward, slamming the stairwell door shut, locked it with my black key card, leaned against it, gasping. The clicking had stopped. The lobby was silent. Dawn came at 6:03 a.m. Weak gray light seeped through the lobby windows. The blue key cards were gone. The staff room was empty, sterile, smelling of bleach. The microwave was cold. The Polaroid of Eleanor had vanished. Even the coffee mugs were clean and stacked neatly in a cupboard. At 6:58 a.m., a man in a crisp suit arrived. "Maintenance," he said, showing no ID. His eyes were the color of wet stone. "Power surge last night. Wiped all the systems. You'll need to fill out incident reports." He handed me a clipboard. "Martha quit. Didn't even give notice." "She didn't quit," I whispered. She left," he interrupted, his gaze sliding to the mirrors. "They all leave eventually. The hotel doesn't like to be forgotten." He tapped the clipboard. "Your signature here, and initial page 3. I signed. Anything to get out. He led me to the service elevator, the one that didn't chime. "Front entrance is under renovation," he lied. The elevator smelled of roses and damp soil. As the doors closed, he pressed the B1 button. "Basement parking. Your car's waiting." The elevator descended 1 floor, 2, 3. It kept going. The lights flickered. The man's reflection in the mirrored walls began to blur, to stretch. His suit melted into a bellhop uniform. His face dissolved into smooth, featureless flesh. In his hand, he held a blue key card. 1,000. "Almost there," he whispered, his voice layered with a clicking sound. I jammed my thumb on the emergency stop button. The elevator shuddered to a halt between floors. Darkness. The clicking grew frantic. Hungry, I pried open the doors with my hands. Cold air rushed in, not a basement. A narrow service corridor lined with pipes. And on the floor, illuminated by a single bare bulb, lay a blue key card. 12. I ran. Through boiler rooms and storage closets following signs for exit. Burst through a rusted metal door into a pre-dawn alley. Rain soaked through my shirt. I didn't stop running until I reached my car 3 blocks away. I drove for 2 days, slept in rest stops, bought a burner phone with my last $20, changed my name to Mark Reynolds at a DMV in Montana, rented a studio apartment above a laundromat. No mirrors. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel. The bedroom had none. I was safe. I was forgettable. Last night, I woke to the smell of roses. The apartment was freezing. My breath fogged in the air. On the kitchen counter, beside the coffee maker, lay a blue key card. 20, still damp. Still smelling of lake water, I threw it out the window, watched it vanish into the alley below. This morning, it was back on my pillow. I packed a bag, left the apartment keys on the counter, drove west until the mountains gave way to ocean. Checked into a cheap motel in a town called Seabrook. Room 7. No mirror in the bathroom, just a curtain over the shower. I slept for 10 hours. I woke to the sound of dripping water, not from the faucet, from the ceiling. I sat up. Dark droplets fell onto the bedspread, thick, viscous, smelling of roses and wet earth. I looked up. Water seeped through a crack in the ceiling plaster. But it wasn't water. It was black fluid, thick as oil, dripping steadily onto my chest. Where it touched my skin, it burned cold. And in the puddle forming on the bedspread, the reflection wasn't the water-stained ceiling. It was the lobby of the Aurora Grand. The mirrors were gone. In their place stood archways, dozens of them, leading to forests, to lakes, to crumbling sanatoriums and rotting cabins. And standing before each archway holding a blue key card were the staff, Martha, Chen, Diego, Eleanor, all smiling with too many teeth. Martha's reflection reached out a dripping hand. In her palm lay a new key card, blank, waiting for a number. "You can't outrun what you carry," she gurgled, lake water pouring from her mouth. "The hotel remembers everyone who forgets it." I scrambled out of bed, grabbing my bag, ran for the door. It wouldn't open, locked from the outside. The dripping intensified. The black fluid pooled on the floor, spreading toward my feet. Shapes moved within it, pale hands, tangled hair, wide, unblinking eyes. The clicking started, not from the walls, from inside my own skull. I smashed the window with the motel room chair, climbed out onto the fire escape as the fluid rose, lapping at the bed frame, dropped to the alley below, ran, didn't stop until I reached the highway, hitched a ride with a trucker hauling lumber to Spokane. He dropped me at a Greyhound station. I bought a one-way ticket to Chicago. The bus was warm, smelled of stale coffee and diesel. I took a window seat at the back, closed my eyes, listened to the hum of tires on asphalt. Safe, moving. At the first rest stop near Boise, I used the restroom. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The sinks were chipped porcelain, and there, taped to the mirror above the hand dryer, was a blue key card. 12. I tore it down, crumpling it in my fist, threw it into a trash can, washed my hands until the skin turned raw. Back on the bus, I kept my eyes closed, pretended to sleep. But in the reflection of the dark window, I saw it. The bus windows weren't reflecting the highway. They showed the Aurora Grand lobby. The mirrors were intact now, and in each one, standing just behind my seat, was Martha. Her hand rested on the headrest. In her palm, she held a blank blue key card. She was writing on it with a finger dipped in black fluid. I looked away, pressed my forehead to the cool glass, closed my eyes tighter. When I opened them, the card lay on my lap. Not blank anymore. The number was 1,000. And it was warm. That brings this story to a close. Let's carry on to the next one. The hotel that forgot it was ever booked. I took the job because I was desperate, not the kind of desperate that makes you rob a convenience store or sell plasma twice a week. The quiet, suffocating kind that hollows you out until the only thing left is the need to disappear. My savings evaporated after the divorce. A slow bleed of lawyer fees and alimony payments that left me with a duffel bag of clothes and a '98 Honda Civic held together by zip ties and regret. When I saw the ad on the county job board pinned to the bulletin board of the 24-hour laundromat where I'd been sleeping in my car, it felt like a lifeline. Night manager needed. The Grand View Hotel. 50-night Pluzzo's room. No experience necessary. Bring cash for first week's deposit. No address. Just coordinates that led me down a 2-lane highway swallowed by pine forests until the GPS signal died and the road turned to gravel. The Grand View didn't grand. It loomed. A hulking 5-story brick relic from the 1920s, it stood alone on a ridge overlooking a valley choked with mist. Its windows were mostly dark, some boarded, others shattered like broken teeth. Ivy clawed up the facade, thick as pythons, strangling the fire escapes. The sign above the entrance, once electric, now rusted into jagged letters, read Grand V, as if the W had simply given up and fallen away. The parking lot was cracked asphalt, littered with dead leaves and the skeletal remains of a 70s pickup truck. No other cars, no lights, just the hotel breathing in the twilight, exhaling the smell of damp stone and something vaguely sweet, like forgotten fruit left to rot. The key waited under a loose brick by the service entrance. Heavy iron, cold in my hand. The door groaned open on unoiled hinges, releasing a wave of stale air that smelled of dust, mildew, and old cigarette smoke. Inside, the lobby was a time capsule of faded grandeur. A chandelier hung crookedly from the ceiling, half its crystals missing. Velvet, curtains, moth-eaten and gray with grime, framed boarded-up windows. The front desk was a slab of scarred mahogany, its surface littered with dead flies and a single brass bell. Behind it sat a ledger book, its leather cover cracked and brittle. I flipped it open. Blank pages, every single one. Not a single name, date, or room number. Not even a doodle in the margins. Just emptiness. A note lay tucked beneath the bell. Neat, handwritten block letters on yellowed hotel stationery. Night manager duties. 1. Answer the phone if it rings, it won't. 2. Check the lobby hourly. No one comes. 3. Sleep in room 413. 4. Do not enter. Room 217. 5. The bellhop is not real. Ignore him. Deposit $350 cash. Leave on desk. Key to 413 in top drawer. I counted out 7 crumpled 50s, every dollar I had left, and placed them on the desk. The drawer stuck, then yielded with a shower of wood splinters. Inside lay a tarnished key on a frayed red tassel. Room 413. The elevator was out of service, its brass cage door hanging open to reveal a shaft of utter blackness that smelled like a grave. I took the stairs. They spiraled upward in near total darkness, the single bare bulb overhead flickering weakly. Each step groaned under my weight. The carpet, once deep crimson, was threadbare and stained with dark, irregular patches that felt sticky under my shoes. The air grew colder the higher I climbed. By the 4th floor, my breath fogged in the dim light. Room 413 was at the end of a long, narrow hallway. The key turned stiffly in the lock. Inside, the room was small but functional. A narrow bed with a thin mattress. A sink stained brown with rust. A single window overlooking the misty valley. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing plaster beneath that looked strangely smooth, almost polished, like it had been touched too many times. The only light came from a dusty lamp on the nightstand. When I turned it on, the bulb buzzed angrily, but refused to glow. I shook it. It flickered once, then died. I sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion hitting me like a physical blow. Outside, the wind rose, howling through the pines. It sounded like voices whispering just below comprehension. I closed my eyes. The phone rang. I jolted upright, heart hammering against my ribs. It came from the lobby desk, a sharp, insistent brrring that shattered the silence. The note said it wouldn't ring. My bare feet slapped against the cold hallway floor as I ran downstairs. The lobby was empty. The phone, a heavy black rotary model, was silent on the desk. I lifted the receiver. Dead air. Static. I slammed it down. Then I saw the bellhop. He stood near the boarded-up windows, just inside the shadow of a marble column, tall, gaunt, dressed in a threadbare uniform that might have been blue once, but was now the color of dried blood. His cap was pulled low over his face. He held a brass key on a chain. "I'm checking in," he said. His voice was dry, papery, like pages turning in an old book. "The hotel's closed," I said, my own voice sounding thin and reedy. "No vacancies." He didn't move, didn't blink. "Room 217 is ready." The note. "Do not enter. Room 217. "That room isn't available." A slow smile stretched across his face, too wide, too many teeth. "It's always available for guests who remember." He took a step forward. His shoes made no sound on the dusty tile. "You forgot your name, didn't you?" I hadn't. I knew my name was Mark Reynolds. But suddenly, the word felt slippery. Was that really it? Or was it Michael? Martin? The certainty bled out of me like air from a punctured tire. I need to see the register," I stammered, backing toward the desk. The bellhop tilted his head, a bird studying a worm. "The book is empty, like all the rooms, like all the guests, like you." He took another silent step. "The Grandview remembers what it wants to remember, and it doesn't want to remember you." I fumbled for the brass bell on the desk and slammed my palm down on it. The clang was shockingly loud, echoing through the cavernous lobby. The bellhop flinched, his form shimmering like heat haze off asphalt. For a split second, his face wasn't human, a blur of shifting shadows, hollow eyes, a mouth full of splinters. Then he was gone, vanished. Only the lingering smell of wet wool and damp earth remained. I ran back to room 413, locking the door behind me. Leaning against it, gasping, I realized my hands were shaking, and my name, Mark Reynolds. It felt borrowed, temporary, like a library book overdue. The room was freezing. I turned on the faucet in the sink. Rusty water sputtered out, then ran clear and icy cold. I splashed it on my face. When I looked up, the mirror above the sink was fogged, not with steam, with words, scratched into the condensation as if written by an invisible finger. "Who are you?" I wiped the mirror, clean with my sleeve. My reflection stared back, pale face, dark circles under my eyes, hair plastered to my forehead. But the eyes, they looked wrong, dull, empty, like the eyes of a mannequin. I blinked. When I opened them, the reflection was gone, just the fogged glass. And beneath the fog, new words formed. "You don't belong here." I spent the next 3 hours pacing the tiny room, jumping at every creak of the old building. The wind died. An unnatural silence settled over the hotel, thick and heavy as burial shroud. Around 2 a.m., the phone rang again. Not the lobby phone, the one in my room. A small, cream-colored desk phone I hadn't noticed before, sitting on the nightstand. Its cord snaked into the wall, frayed and chewed at the edges. I didn't answer. It rang 7 times, then stopped. Silence, then tapping. Soft, insistent tapping on the window. I crept to the bed, peeling back the dusty curtain just enough to see out. The valley was swallowed in fog. Nothing moved. I was about to let the curtain fall when I saw it. A pale hand, pressed against the outside of the glass, fingers splayed, knuckles white. It slid slowly downward, leaving a trail of moisture on the pane. Then it was gone. I didn't sleep. I sat on the bed with my back against the headboard, clutching the rusted fire poker I'd found leaning in the corner. Dawn came gray and weak, filtering through the grimy window. The hotel seemed to breathe a sigh of relief as the first light touched the valley. The oppressive silence lifted, replaced by the distant cry of a hawk and the rustle of wind in the pines. I went downstairs. The lobby looked different in daylight, less sinister, more sad. Dust motes danced in the weak sunbeams piercing the boarded windows. I approached the front desk, determined to find answers. I flipped through the ledger again, still blank, every page pristine, untouched, except on the very last page, tucked between the cover and the binding, was a photograph, a black and white group shot, faded almost to sepia. Dozens of people in 1940s attire, men in suits, women in floral dresses, children holding balloons, standing on the Grand View's front steps. Everyone was smiling, except one man in the back row, tall, gaunt, wearing a bellhop's uniform. His face was blurred, as if he'd moved at the moment the shutter clicked. And behind him, in the hotel's grand entranceway, stood a shadow that didn't belong. Tall, thin, with too many joints in its limbs, its head elongated and featureless. It wasn't cast by any person in the photo. It was just there, waiting. I turned the photo over, scrawled in faded pencil. Opening day, June 15th, 1942. The Grand View remembers only the guests it keeps. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around. The bellhop stood at the base of the grand staircase, polishing a brass key with a rag that looked like old skin. His uniform was immaculate now, gleaming, buttons, crisp cap. But his face, it was smooth, featureless, like a mannequin's. No eyes, no mouth, just blank, pale flesh. "The lobby needs checking," he said, his voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Hourly. "I saw the photo," I said, holding it up. My voice didn't shake. Not this time. "What happened to them? To the guests?" The blank face tilted. "They forgot. Or the hotel forgot them. Same thing." He took a silent step forward. "Room 217 is ready for you. It's been ready since you arrived, since you forgot who you were." "I haven't forgotten," I shouted, the words ringing hollow even to my own ears. "Who am I?" The question echoed in the sudden silence. Mark Reynolds? Or just the man who came here to disappear? "The Grand View is hungry," the bellhop whispered. His form flickered, revealing glimpses of the shadow behind him from the photo, tall, jointed, hungry. "It feeds on memory, on names, on the things that make you you. The longer you stay, the less you are, until there's nothing left but an empty room, an empty book, an empty guest." He was inches away now. I could smell the damp earth on him, the scent of deep, undisturbed soil. His blank face hovered level with mine. "You left your deposit. You took the room. The contract is sealed. Room 217 is waiting." I raised the fire poker. "Stay back." He didn't flinch, didn't move, but his voice dropped to a guttural rasp, layered with other voices, children laughing, women weeping, men shouting in panic. "Resistance is forgetting. Forgetting is peace. Let go. Let the Grand View remember for you." I swung the poker. It passed through his chest like smoke. There was no resistance, no impact, just a coldness that numbed my arm to the shoulder. The bellhop didn't vanish. He unraveled, his form dissolving into dust motes that swirled in the sunbeams, carrying with them whispers. "Sarah, Thomas, Eleanor, remember us." Then silence. I stood alone in the lobby, the fire poker heavy in my hand. The photograph was gone from my pocket. The ledger lay open on the desk. The pages were no longer blank. Names filled them, dozens, hundreds. Scrawled in shaky handwriting, ink blurred by tears or rain. Sarah Jenkins, room 217, June 12th, 1943. Thomas Finch, room 413, August 3rd, 1951. Eleanor Voss, Cabin 7, July 15th, 1987. My breath caught. Eleanor Voss, from Camp Everstill. How did her name get here? I looked down at my own hands. The knuckles were scraped raw, but I didn't remember falling. My reflection in the dark window pane showed a man with hollow cheeks, eyes wide with a fear that felt borrowed. Familiar, but not mine. I ran upstairs, not to room 419, to the second floor, to room 217. The hallway was darker here, the air thick, tasting of copper and old pennies. The carpet felt spongy underfoot, damp. Room 217's door was identical to all the others, peeling paint, tarnished brass number, but the keyhole was filled with dark, viscous fluid that dripped slowly onto the floorboards. It smelled like the lake at Camp Everstill, like the mud beneath Hollowbrook's floorboards, like places that remember too much. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then a child's voice muffled, singing softly. Row, row, row your boat. Sarah Miller, from the camp, from the lake, from the hole in the woods. My hand reached for the doorknob before I could stop it. The metal was ice cold. I turned it. The room was empty. Not just vacant, absent. No bed, no furniture, no wallpaper, just bare water-stained plaster walls and floorboards slick with that same dark fluid. In the center of the room, a single chair sat facing the window. On the chair lay a folded piece of hotel stationery. I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me. Locked. I picked up the paper. My handwriting, but I didn't remember writing it. They're not in the rooms. The rooms are in them. The Grandview doesn't forget guests. It consumes them, makes them part of its memory, part of its hunger. Room 217 isn't a room, it's a mouth. The bellhop isn't a ghost, he's the tongue. I tried to leave. I packed my bag, but the road just circles back. The trees close in. The hotel breathes, and I forget why I was running. I forget my wife's face, my daughter's laugh, my name. It's all fading like ink in rain. They're in the walls now, singing, waiting. They want me to join the chorus, to forget the pain, to be still, to be quiet, to be remembered. By the Grandview? Maybe it's better this way. No more running, no more remembering the things that broke me, just peace, in the stillness, in the forgetting. The singing stopped. The darkness in the corners of the room deepened. It wasn't shadow. It was substance. Thick, tar-like, oozing from the cracks in the plaster. It pooled on the floor, spreading toward my feet. Shapes moved within it, pale hands, tangled hair, wide, unblinking eyes. Sarah Miller's face surfaced in the blackness, bloated and blue-lipped, her mouth opening in a silent plea. The fluid touched my shoe, cold, hungry. Memories flooded back, not mine, but theirs. A car crash on a rain-slicked highway, a betrayal in a sunlit kitchen, a child's hand slipping beneath dark water, the shame of bankruptcy, the hollow ache of loneliness, all the pains the Grandview had swallowed over decades, all the reasons its guests had wanted to forget. The bellhop's voice whispered from the spreading darkness, no longer papery, but deep, resonant, ancient. Let go. Be remembered. I looked at my hands. They were fading, not vanishing, blurring, like the man in the photograph. My reflection in the dark window was gone. Only the shape of the shadow remained. I picked up the brass key from the chair, room 217's key. It felt warm, alive. Outside, the wind died. The hotel held its breath. I placed the key on a chair, sat down, faced the window. The darkness rose around my ankles, cold and thick as grave soil. It didn't hurt. It felt like sinking into a warm bath after a long, hard life. The singing started again. Dozens of voices now. Children, adults, old men, young women, a chorus of the forgotten. Row, row, row your boat. My name slipped away. Mark Reynolds, Michael, Martin. None of it mattered. The pain of the divorce, the shame of failure, the weight of being me. It all dissolved in the warm, dark peace. Such sweet, silent peace. The last thing I saw before the darkness took my eyes was the window, not the misty valley beyond, but the reflection in the glass. My face was gone. In its place, smooth, featureless, waiting. And on the desk in the lobby, the ledger book lay open. A new entry appeared in neat, steady handwriting that hadn't been there before. Guest, room 217, October 27, 2023. Below it, the page remained blank, waiting for the next forgotten soul to fill it. The phone on the front desk rang once. Sharp, insistent. No one answered. The grand view remembered, and in its memory, we were all finally at rest. That brings this story to a close. Let's carry on to the next one. We found a school locker, still beating like a heart. Leo found the photo on a dead forum called Forgotten Classrooms. It showed a row of dented metal lockers in a dark hallway. One locker, number 13, was streaked with dark, wet-looking stains. The caption read, Ravenswood High, closed 1987 after the incident. Locker 13 still breathes. Leo, desperate for YouTube views after his channel tanked and his girlfriend left him, waved his phone in my face while we ate gas station burritos in my rattling Honda. Dude, this is perfect. Abandoned school, creepy locker. We get night vision footage, some EVP sessions. It's free real estate for content. I should have said no. I remembered the guest ledger at Willow Creek Lodge, the dragging thing in the concrete tunnel, the red eyes in the Holloway Zoo cages. But my bank account was empty. Rent was due. Leo's reckless grin, the same one that got us into every nightmare, was too familiar. One night, I muttered, Dawn, we leave. No exceptions. He agreed, too quickly. Ravenswood High wasn't on any map. GPS died miles back. We followed crumbling directions scribbled on Leo's arm. Turned left at the dead oak. Past the flooded quarry. Followed the fence line. The school loomed through the windshield like a rotten tooth. 3 stories of cracked brick, windows shattered or boarded with plywood gone gray. Weeds choked the football field. The air smelled of wet concrete, mildew, and a sharp, coppery tang like old pennies. The main doors hung open, one hinge ripped out. Taped to the frame was a yellowed sign. Condemned. Keep out. Structurally unsound. Below it, in fresh spray paint, Don't touch locker 13. It recalls. Leo snorted. Teenagers trying to scare each other. He stepped inside. I followed, the smell hitting me like a wall. Dust, decay, and that metallic stench beneath it all. Inside was a tomb. Hallways stretched into darkness, lockers lining the walls like silent sentinels. Chalkboards still held ghostly lessons. Chairs lay overturned in classrooms coated in thick gray dust. No wind, no bugs, just a deep, suffocating silence broken only by our footsteps crunching on broken glass, and beneath it a vibration, faint, rhythmic, thump, 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 like a slow heartbeat echoing through the floorboards. Leo didn't seem to hear it. He set up his camera near the main office. This place is gold, Ben, pure gold. His voice sounded too loud, too cheerful in the dead air. We found the lockers on the second floor, row after row of dented metal doors, rust bleeding from their seams. Most were open, empty. Locker 13 was closed. Different. Its metal wasn't just rusted, it was stained dark brown in places, glistening faintly in our flashlight beams. And it moved. A slow, rhythmic bulging of the metal like something breathing behind it. Thump, thump, thump. Louder here, syncing with the vibration in the floor. Leo pressed his ear to it. Whoa, it's real. Feels like machinery? He ran his hand over the cold metal. The bulging stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Then a new sound, a wet click, like a throat clearing from inside the locker. Leo jerked back, laughing nervously. Okay, that's creepy. But sound design, perfect for the video. He lifted his camera. Smile for the ghosts, Ben. I didn't smile. The coppery smell was strongest here. The air felt colder near locker 13, and the vibration. It wasn't just under my feet anymore. It was in my chest. My own heartbeat began to match its slow, heavy rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. Leo, I said, my voice tight, we should go now. He ignored me, zooming in on the locker's scratched surface. Just one more shot. Look at these marks. Deep gouges covered the metal, not random scratches, but deliberate lines forming words. Let me out. Below it, smaller, she knows your name. As I watched, the metal around the words seemed to pulse. The dark stains glistened wetly. The heartbeat sound deepened, becoming a physical pressure against my ribs. It wasn't machinery. It was alive, hungry. A whisper cut through the thumping, faint, sibilant, seeming to come from the locker's ventilation slits. Leo, it breathed. Ben. My blood turned to ice. Leo froze, camera lowering. Did you? The whisper came again, clearer. Remember the fire? Images flashed in my mind, flames licking down a hallway, the smell of burning hair, a girl's scream cut short. I'd never been here. I didn't know this place. But the memory felt real, raw, terrifying. You left me, the whisper hissed, now loud enough to vibrate the lockers around us. Both of you, in the dark. Leo dropped his camera, the lens shattered on the concrete. We didn't, he yelled, backing away. We weren't here. The heartbeat surged. Thump, thump, thump. The metal of locker 13 bulged violently. The dark stain spread like oil, dripping, thick black liquid onto the floor. It smelled like rust and spoiled meat. The whispers became a chorus, overlapping, desperate. Liar. Burned. Hungry. Open the door. Run! I grabbed Leo's arm. We sprinted down the hall, past classrooms where shadows seemed to writhe on the walls. The heartbeat followed us, louder, shaking dust from the ceiling. Lockers rattled on their hinges. The whispers echoed from every dark doorway. Stay. Remember. Feed us. We burst into the gymnasium, a cavernous space with a collapsed basketball hoop and rotten bleachers. Moonlight filtered through broken skylights, casting long, distorted shadows. We were trapped. The main exit was blocked by fallen debris. The only way out was back through the locker hallway. They're coming, Leo whispered, pointing. Figures emerged from the darkness at the gym doors, not people. Shapes made of smoke and shadow, flickering like bad film. Their faces were blurred, melting, but their eyes glowed the same dull red as the creatures in the Holloway Zoo. They moved silently, drifting toward us, the heartbeat thrumming in their wake. The fire! One hissed, its voice like crackling embers. You locked the door. You ran. I didn't understand. I'd never set a fire. But the memory surged again. A classroom door slamming shut, a girl's hand reaching through the window, flames reflected in her wide, terrified eyes. Her name surfaced in my mind like a drowned thing. Maggie. Maggie's locker, Leo choked out, tears cutting tracks through the dust on his face. The fire started there. They said she brought something unnatural to school. They locked her in during the drill. We were supposed to check the rooms. He looked at me, truly seeing me for the first time. Ben, we weren't here in '87, but we are here now. It's the same thing. It always finds us. The shadow figures closed in. The heartbeat wasn't just sound anymore. It was a physical force, vibrating the floor, making my teeth ache. The coppery smell was overwhelming. Locker 13's black ooze was spreading across the gym floor, snaking toward our feet. It pulsed with the same rhythm. "Open it!" The whispers commanded, not from the figures, but from the ooze itself. "Open Maggie's door. Feed the hunger." Leo turned and ran, not toward the exit, but back toward the locker hallway. "I'm sorry," he screamed into the darkness. "I'm sorry, Maggie." He vanished around the corner. I heard his footsteps stop. Then a wet, tearing sound, then silence. The heartbeat stopped. The shadows in the gym froze. I followed him. He stood before locker 13. The metal was hot to the touch, glowing faintly red around the edges. The black ooze covered the floor thick as tar, bubbling softly. Leo's hand was pressed against the locker door, not pushing, merging. His skin was turning gray, hardening like stone, spreading up his arm. His eyes were wide, vacant. He didn't look at me. He just stared at the locker, tears streaming down his face. "It's warm," he whispered. "She's so lonely." The locker door bulged outward with a metallic groan. The dark stains ran like fresh blood. The whispers became a single deafening voice inside my skull. "Ben." My name. Not a question, a command, a claim. The vibration returned, not in the floor, but in my bones. My heart hammered against my ribs, out of sync with the locker's slow, heavy thump, thump, thump. It was pulling me, dragging me toward it. My feet moved without my will. The black ooze sucked at my boots, cold and thick. The smell of copper filled my nose, my mouth. I saw flashes, not memories, but offers, warmth, quiet, an end to the running, to the fear, to the loneliness that had driven me to follow Leo into every haunted place. Maggie wasn't evil. She was trapped, hungry, like the lodge, like the tunnel, like the bunker. They all hungered, and they all took names. Leo's arm was fully stone now, fused to the locker. His face was pale, serene. "It's okay, Ben," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "She just wants company, forever." The locker door groaned wider, not opening, unfolding. The metal stretched like skin, revealing not darkness inside, but a swirling vortex of smoke and shadow. 2 points of red light glowed within it, eyes. Maggie's eyes. The whispers weren't words anymore. They were a feeling, a deep, aching need. I didn't fight it. The exhaustion was too deep, the pull too strong. My hand rose. My fingers touched the hot metal. It didn't burn. It soothed, like sinking into warm water. The stone spread up my arm, cold and heavy, but the heartbeat was a lullaby. Thump. Thump, thump. My own heart slowed, matched it. The fear dissolved into a terrible, sweet peace. The shadows in the hallway bowed their heads. The red eyes watched, patient, waiting. The last thing I saw before the stone reached my chest was the locker number, 13, but the 1 had blurred, melting into the metal. Now it read just 3. And below it, scratched into the stone of my own forearm as it hardened, were two new names: Leo Vance, keeper; Ben Carter, keeper. The whispers became a sigh of contentment. The heartbeat deepened, becoming the pulse of the school itself. The stone covered my face, my eyes. The darkness behind my eyelids wasn't empty. It was filled with the red glow of Maggie's eyes and the endless comforting rhythm of the locker that was no longer a locker. It was a heart. Our heart, beating in the dark, forever. The school wasn't abandoned. It was full, and we were finally home. The door was open, and we would never leave. The hunger was satisfied, for now. But it would always need more names, more keepers. The lockers waited, always waiting, always beating. Thump, thump, thump. And that's where this story ends. Let's move on to the next one. The underground hospital beneath my city still has patients. The leak started in the basement, not a drip, not a seep, a pulse. Every 7 minutes, like clockwork, a single thick drop of fluid would swell from a hairline crack in the concrete foundation wall, hang for 3 seconds, a glistening amber sphere catching the dim glow of the utility bulb, then fall with a soft, wet plink into the waiting bucket I'd placed beneath it. I'd moved into the old brick row house on Sycamore Street 3 weeks ago, lured by the price, $425 a month for 3 floors in the historic district, and the promise of original character. The basement was damp, sure, the wiring knob and tube, the plumbing a Rube Goldberg contraption of cast iron and corroded copper. But the realtor had waved it off. Charmin' patina, she'd called it, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Just needs a little love. The fluid wasn't water. It was warm, viscous, smelled faintly of antiseptic and something older, deeper, like old pennies left in the rain, and beneath that, the greasy, cloying sweetness of formaldehyde. I collected it in a mason jar. After 3 days, I had 2 inches. It didn't evaporate, didn't separate, just sat there amber and still, reflecting the basement light with a dull internal luminescence. On the 4th day, I found the tile, not in the basement, in the alley behind the house, half buried in the cracked concrete near the rusted storm drain. A single 12-inch square of white ceramic tile, its surface smooth, unblemished, except for a single faded blue symbol in the center, a caduceus, the twin serpents entwined around a staff, wings outstretched, the symbol of medicine. Common, I thought, from a renovation, discarded, but the tile was cold, not basement damp cold, refrigerator cold, and when I picked it up, the pulse in the basement wall stopped for exactly 7 minutes, then resumed. The city. Archives were a cavern of dust and forgotten paper tucked beneath the main library like an afterthought. The archivist, a woman named Ms. Gable, with eyes like chips of flint and fingers stained with ink, didn't look up when I approached the reference desk, a stack of brittle blueprints before her. "I'm researching the history of 47 Sycamore Street," I said, sliding the tile across the scarred wood. "Found this in the alley." She didn't touch it, just looked at the caduceus. Her face didn't change, but her knuckles whitened on the edge of the desk. 47 Sycamore, she said, her voice dry as dead leaves. "That's the old Henderson place." "Henderson?" "Dr. Alistair Henderson, city surgeon, early 1900s. She finally lifted her gaze. "He didn't just live there, he built there." She pushed a microfiche reel across the desk. Cedar Hollow Gazette, March 12, 1911. The headline was small, buried on page 5. New Municipal Infirmary opens. State-of-the-art facilities praised. The article was brief. Dr. Henderson, lauded for his work during the typhoid epidemic, had secured funding for a modern, hygienic, and discreet municipal infirmary. Location: beneath the newly constructed Henderson residence, 47 Sycamore Street. A marvel of engineering, the paper gushed, utilizing the latest in pneumatic tube systems and subterranean ventilation, designed for efficiency, privacy, and containment. A footnote added in a different typeset. Due to unforeseen geological instability, the infirmary was permanently closed November 3, 1918. All records sealed per City Ordinance 77B. November 3, 1918, the height of the Spanish flu. I scrolled further, a follow-up, December 1918. Dr. Henderson reports full recovery of infirmary staff, no patients lost. Another footnote, City Council Minutes, Dec 5, 1918, motion passed to seal all access points to the Henderson Infirmary. Reason: structural compromise. Vote unanimous. No mention of patients, no obituaries, just silence. Ms. Gable slid a second reel toward me. Property records, 1920 present. Every listing for 47 Sycamore Street for the next 100 years carried the same addendum, handwritten in the margin in fading ink. Basement access prohibited. Substructure unstable. See Ordinance 77B. And beneath that, in newer, shakier script, added by hand over the decades, don't listen to the pipes. They sound like breathing. It's not water in the walls. My hands were sweating. Is there a blueprint? I asked, my voice tight. She didn't answer, just pushed a third reel. City engineer in depth, Henderson Infirmary, as-built drawings, 1911. I threaded it into the reader. The image resolved slowly. A cross-section. The row house, 3 stories, sat atop a massive reinforced concrete box, 2 levels deep. Level 1, staff quarters, morgue, boiler room. Level 2, patient, wards, surgical suites, isolation chambers, and running through it all, a network of lines, not electrical, pneumatic tubes, thick, labeled specimen transferer, snaking from every room, converging on a central chamber deep in the lowest level. The core, no description, just a circle, and a single word, stamped in red ink so faded it was almost invisible. Observation. That night, the pulse in the basement wall changed. Not 7 minutes. 3. Plink, plink, plink. Faster. Urgent. The fluid in the mason jar wasn't amber anymore. It was tinged with pink, like diluted blood. I stood before the crack, the bucket forgotten at my feet, pressed my ear to the cold concrete. Not silence. A sound, faint, rhythmic. Thump, thump, thump. Not the furnace. Too slow, too deep. Like a heart, a huge, tired heart. Then a whisper, not words, just breath. Inhale, a long, wet drag. Exhale, a sigh. Cold. I jerked back. The whisper hadn't come from the wall. It had come from inside my head. Day 5. I found the access point, not in the basement, in the alley. Behind the rusted storm drain cover, pried loose with a crowbar I bought at the hardware store, the earth was hollow, a shaft, concrete-lined, descending into darkness. A rusted iron ladder clung to the wall, its rungs slick with the same amber fluid. At the bottom, a door, steel, round, like a bank vault, sealed with a heavy, old-fashioned wheel lock, and bolted to its center, a plaque, tarnished brass, the caduceus. Beneath it, in flaking paint, Henderson Municipal Infirmary, authorized personnel only, Level 2, observation. The wheel lock wasn't rusted shut. It was warm, pulsing, like the fluid, like the wall, like the thump, 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 now vibrating up through the soles of my boots. I didn't turn the wheel, not yet. I went back inside, sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, searched Cedar Hollow unexplained disappearances. The list was short. 1923. 3 sanitation workers report strange noises from sewer line near Sycamore St. Vanish during inspection. 1947. Teenager Thomas Reed, 16, last seen near 47 Sycamore, reported hearing voices in the drains. 1978. Utility crew excavating for new lines near Sycamore St. report structural anomaly. Project abandoned. Crew foreman M. Gable resigned same day. 2001. Homeless man found deceased in alley behind 47 Sycamore. Cause: cardiac event. Autopsy notes: unidentified viscous fluid in lungs. Mr. Gable, the archivist's father. I looked at the mason jar on the table. The fluid was red now, cloudy, swirling slowly, like it was alive. Midnight. The city slept. The rain had stopped. The only sound was the plink, plink, plink from the basement. Faster now. Plink, plink, plink. I stood before the vault door in the alley. The wheel lock glowed, faintly, in the dark. Warm, inviting. I gripped the cold iron, turned. It moved smoothly, silently. With a soft hiss of equalizing pressure, the door swung inward. Not darkness. Light, soft, greenish. The smell hit me, antiseptic, formaldehyde, copper, and beneath it all, the sweet rot stench of something long entombed and not quite dead. The air was warm, humid. I stepped inside. A corridor, tiles on the floor, white, cracked, stained with rust-colored streaks. Walls lined with peeling green paint. Pneumatic tubes ran overhead, thick as my wrist, their brass fittings tarnished black. The thump, thump, thump was louder here, deeper, coming from ahead. I walked past a door marked morgue. It stood ajar. Inside, a gurney, strapped to it, a figure, not a body, a mannequin, wax, pale, featureless. But its chest rose and fell, slowly, rhythmically. Thump, thump, thump. Its eyes, glass, blank, rolled toward me, mouthed one word. Stay. I backed out, ran down the corridor, past surgical suite. Wall dark, instruments gleaming dully on a tray, past isolation chamber 3. A small window in the door. Inside, a child's shoe, red. Beside it, a small stuffed rabbit. Mr. Hops. My breath caught. Lily's rabbit. Lost last year. Reported missing near Sycamore Park. I ran toward the thumping, toward the core. The corridor ended at a massive double door, steel, riveted, no handle, just a single circular window. I peered in. The greenish light came from within. A vast, circular chamber. The walls weren't concrete, they were glass. Thousands of panes fused together, forming a seamless curved surface, and behind the glass, movement. Figures, hundreds of them, lying on narrow cots, all connected by tubes, clear, pulsing with amber fluid, snaking from their arms, their necks, their temples, converging on a central column in the room's heart. The column wasn't metal, it was flesh, pulsing, veined, glistening. At its base, Dr. Henderson, not a ghost, a presence. Tall, gaunt, wearing a stained white coat, his face a ruin of wax and shadow, but his eyes, real, human, bloodshot, locked onto mine. He held a bone-handled scalpel, dipped it into a basin of amber fluid. Then he turned to the nearest cot. A woman, mid-30s, dark hair, eyes wide, clouded with cataracts, but seeing. He raised the scalpel, aimed for her temple. I slammed my fist against the window. No. He didn't flinch, just smiled. A terrible, broken thing. He plunged the scalpel in. The woman didn't scream. She sang. A single, clear note. The amber fluid in the tubes flared bright. The column pulsed. Thump, thump, thump. The other figures stirred, turned their heads toward the window, toward me. Their eyes, clouded, cataract-covered, fixed on mine. Their mouths opened, not to scream, to whisper. A chorus of exhausted, hopeful voices layered, echoing in the chamber, vibrating in my skull. Help us remember. Don't let him forget us. We are still here. Dr. Henderson withdrew the scalpel. The wound in the woman's temple didn't bleed. It sealed with wax, smooth, perfect. He turned back to the window. His bloodshot eyes held mine. Observation requires participation, he whispered, his voice the dry rustle of dead leaves. The core must be fed. Memories are the most potent nutrient. Fear, joy, love. They sustain the structure. They keep the patient present. He gestured to the glass wall. The city forgot them, buried them, sealed them away, called it mercy. A bitter laugh. I call it murder. I preserve them. I keep their memories alive, in the fluid, in the core, in me. He touched his temple. His waxen skin dimpled. Beneath it, movement, shapes, faces, flashing in the translucent layer. My mother, my sister, Lily, all staring out, all whispering. Stay. The woman on the cot raised a trembling hand, pressed it to the glass. Her palm aligned with mine on the other side. Her clouded eyes held mine. Her lips moved, no sound. But the words formed in my mind, clear and cold. Don't let him make another. Dr. Henderson stepped forward, held out the scalpel. The amber fluid dripped from its tip. Join us, he whispered. Become part of the memory. Become part of the cure. The pneumatic tubes overhead hissed. A capsule shot through one, slamming into a receiver beside the door. It popped open. Inside, a single object. Lily's red shoe and a note, folded neatly. For the new observer. I didn't take the scalpel. I turned, ran, back down the corridor. Past the morgue. The mannequin's chest heaved. Stay. Past the isolation chamber. Mr. Hopps's button eyes watched me flee. I reached the vault door, slammed it shut, spun the wheel lock. It clicked, sealed. I climbed the ladder, back into the alley. Rain had started again, cold, clean. I leaned against the storm drain cover, gasping. The pulse in the basement wall had stopped. Silence. Then a new sound. From deep below, a single, clear note, like a music box, winding up. The next morning, the city crew arrived. Bright yellow trucks, hard hats, radios crackling. They'd gotten a call, anonymous, about structural instability near 47 Sycamore. A sinkhole risk. Ms. Gable stood at the curb, arms crossed, watching. I stood beside her. She didn't look at me, just said, "They'll find the shaft. They'll seal it. Pour concrete. Weld a plate over the vault door. Add it to the records." She finally turned. Her flint chip eyes held mine. "They'll call it safe. They'll call it closed." "What about the patients?" I whispered. Her gaze drifted to the storm. Drain cover, now welded shut, a fresh layer of asphalt poured over it. "They're not patients, son," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "They're memories, and memories don't die. They just get quieter." She walked away. I went home. The basement was dry. The crack in the wall was gone. Smooth concrete, as if it had never been. I sat on the floor, listened, silence. Then a whisper, faint, from the pipes, not words, just breath. Inhale, exhale. Cold. I pressed my ear to the floor. The thump, thump, thump was still there, fainter, deeper, but steady. I went to the kitchen, poured the red fluid from the mason jar down the sink. It didn't wash away. It clung to the porcelain, to my fingers. I scrubbed. It sank in like silver flecks, like ground glass. That night, I stood before the bathroom mirror. My reflection stared back, tired, pale, and behind me, in the glass, the greenish light of the core. Dr. Henderson stood in the reflection, his waxen hand on my shoulder. His bloodshot eyes held mine. "Observation has begun," he whispered, his voice vibrating in my teeth. I closed my eyes. The thump, thump, thump filled my skull, not the core's heart. Mine, synchronized. I opened my eyes. The mirror was clear, just me, but my pupils, they weren't black. They were clouded, like cataracts, like the patient's in the glass. I smiled. The reflection smiled back. A real smile, not whole, but remembering. The city sealed the shaft, poured the concrete, welded the plate, added it to the records, but the patients are still there. The core still pulses, the memories still flow, and deep beneath the streets, in the warm, green-lit dark, Dr. Henderson waits for the next observer, for the next memory to preserve, for the next heart to sync with the thump, 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 because the underground hospital isn't haunted, it's alive. And the most terrifying, beautiful thing about it, it only opens for those who are truly ready to remember. And that's where this story ends. Let's move on to the next one. The locked tunnel my friends wanted to open. It started with a map. Not a digital one, not a tourist brochure, a real folded brittle thing, stained with coffee rings and the faint grease of old fingers, pulled from the back of a mildewed photo album in my grandmother's attic after she passed. Blackwater Hollow, Township Survey, 1911. Most of it was useless, parcel lines for farms long swallowed by forest, names of men buried 60 years, until the lower right corner. There, tucked between the faded inks marking Devil's Creek and Old Mill Road, was a thin, dashed line. It snaked from the edge of the map, vanished beneath the printed border, then reappeared 2 inches later, terminating in a small, perfect circle labeled in meticulous, spidery script, ventilation shaft, access tunnel, sealed, 1923. Below that, in newer ink, shaky and desperate, don't open it. H. Henry, my great-uncle, the one who vanished in 47, the one they found 3 days later, 10 miles from anywhere, babbling about the singing in the walls. Before he stopped speaking entirely, he died 2 weeks after that, eyes wide open, fixed on the ceiling, a single dried tear track cutting through the grime on his cheek. My friends, Lena, Ben, and Priya, thought it was a dare, a mystery, a score. Priya, with her archaeology degree and restless hands, traced the dashed line with a fingertip. It's a maintenance tunnel for the old aqueduct, probably just collapsed or full of bats. Ben, ever the pragmatist, squinted. Sealed in 1923? What did they seal it from? Lena, quiet, intuitive Lena, just touched the initials, ch, and shivered. It feels heavy. We went anyway. Blackwater Hollow wasn't a town. It was a scar, a depression in the land where the forest grew thicker, darker, the pines leaning inward like conspirators. The air was cooler there, damper, smelling of wet stone and decaying leaves, even in high summer, No birds sang, no insects buzzed, just the low, constant sigh of wind through the canyon, a sound like distant breathing. The map led us off the overgrown logging road down a steep, root-choked ravine, slick with moss. Devil's Creek wasn't a creek anymore, just a cracked bed of black shale littered with smooth, water-worn stones the color of dried blood. We crossed it, boots slipping on the shale, the silence pressing in. Then we saw it, the ventilation shaft, not a hole, a monument. A cylinder of poured concrete, 10 feet in diameter, rising 15 feet from the creek bed like a broken tooth. Its surface was pitted, stained with rust-colored mineral deposits, wrapped in thick iron bands bolted deep into the stone. At its base, set into the concrete like a grim mouth, was a door, not wood, not steel. Iron, 3 inches thick, riveted shut, blackened with age and something else. Soot, maybe, but too uniform, too deliberate. And across its center, bolted through the iron itself, was a lock, not a padlock, a hasp. Forged iron, shaped like interlocking hands, fingers clasped in a grip so tight the knuckles were rendered in painful detail. The keyhole wasn't a hole. It was an eye, a smooth, polished circle of obsidian set deep in the center of the clasped hands. No keyhole, Ben muttered, running a hand over the cold iron. Just an eye. Priya knelt, flashlight beam trembling slightly. Look! She pointed to the base of the shaft. Scratched into the concrete, almost erased by time and weather, were words, not carved, gouged, as if by frantic fingernails. "It knows when you look." Lena backed away, her face pale. "We should go, now." But Priya was already pulling tools from her pack, crowbar, hammer, cold chisel. "It's just a seal, probably just collapsed earth. We'll take a peek. 5 minutes, then we leave." Ben, ever loyal, ever curious, nodded. 5 minutes. I stood frozen, staring at the obsidian eye. It wasn't reflecting the weak sunlight filtering through the pines. It was reflecting me, but not as I was. Taller, thinner, eyes wide, black, unblinking, smiling. The iron didn't yield. The crowbar bent, the chisel snapped. The hammer blows rang out, sharp and final, in the suffocating silence, each clang, seeming to hang in the air long after the sound should have faded, vibrating in my teeth, in my bones. Clang, clang, clang. On the 7th blow, the obsidian eye cracked, not shattered, a single hairline fracture radiating from the center like a spider's leg, and from within the shaft, a sound, not a groan of shifting earth, a sigh, long, wet, deeply, profoundly relieved. The air changed. The damp coolness vanished, replaced by a wave of dry, stale heat, the smell of ancient dust, ozone, and beneath it, the faint, sweet rot stench of something long entombed and not quite dead. The fracture in the obsidian? I pulsed. A faint, greenish light bled through. Thump! A vibration, not from the ground, from the door, like a heart waking up. Thump! Thump! Priya dropped the hammer. What the hell was that? Ben's face was ashen. "We need to go." Lena was already scrambling back up the ravine, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Priya hesitated, eyes locked on the pulsing light. It's just geothermal, or gas, methane buildup, pressure release." The iron hands moved, not much, a fraction of an inch, the clasped fingers unclasped, just enough. A gap opened, darkness within, and a whisper, not one voice, hundreds, layered, overlapping, exhausted, eager. "Open, please, open." Priya reached out. "Don't!" Lena screamed from the ridge. But Priya's fingers touched the obsidian eye. The fracture spread. Crack. The light flared, bright, sickly green. The iron hands fell away. The door didn't swing open. It unfolded, like a flower blooming in reverse. Iron petals peeled back, silent, smooth, revealing not a tunnel mouth, a throat, dark, glistening, lined with ridges of something that looked like stone, but moved, pulsing, contracting, and from within, the heat intensified, the whispering rose to a chorus. "Thank you." Priya didn't scream. She stepped forward into the throat. Ben lunged, grabbing her arm. She turned. Her eyes weren't hers. They were black, solid, reflecting the green light. Her smile was too wide. "It's not dark in there," she said, her voice layered, a child's, a man's, a woman's, all speaking at once. "It's home." She pulled free, vanished into the darkness. The throat closed behind her, silently, leaving only the green light pulsing in the obsidian eye, now whole again. Ben stared at his empty hand. "Priya?" Silence. Then a new sound from deep within the shaft. A rhythm. Thump! 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 Not one heart, many, synchronized. Thump! 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 Ben picked up the hammer. "Priya!" he yelled, his voice raw. He slammed the hammer against the iron door. Clang! The green light flared. The obsidian eye blinked. The door unfolded again, wider this time. The throat glistened. The whispering was clearer now. "Benjamin, we remember your laugh, the day you fixed the swing, the blue kite. Come see." Ben froze. His name, his story, things only Priya knew. He looked at me, eyes wide with terror and a terrible dawning hope. Maybe she's okay. Maybe it's not. He took a step. "Ben, no." I grabbed his arm. He looked at me, really looked. "Jamie, what if it's not bad? What if it's just lost? What if it needs us?" He pulled free, walked to the throat, didn't hesitate, stepped in. The door closed. The green light pulsed. Thump, thump, thump. Louder, faster. Lena was sobbing now, curled on the ridge above. "Make it stop, Jamie, please. Make it stop." I stood alone before the shaft. The obsidian eye watched me. The whispering shifted, softer, sadder. "James, Ellie misses you. She's waiting, just like before." Ellie, my sister, gone 32 years. My breath caught. The fracture reappeared in the obsidian. The door unfolded. Just a crack. Green light spilled out, pooling on the black shale, and in the light, a shape, small, a hand, pale, child-sized, reaching out, fingers curled. "Come." I knew it was a trap. I knew it was madness, but the hollow place inside me, the one Ellie left, ached with a sudden, unbearable fullness. The promise of her, of answers, of her. I took a step, then another. The green light washed over me, warm, inviting. The whispering became a single voice. Ellie's. "Don't be scared, Jamie." I reached the threshold, looked into the throat. Not darkness, light, soft, golden, and within it, a park. Silver pines, the sky spiral turning, the carousel spinning, children laughing. Ellie stood at the base of the Ferris wheel, wearing her yellow sundress, whole, unharmed, smiling. She held out her hand. "Just one more ride." The scent of cotton candy and diesel filled my nostrils. The sound of the calliope, bright, cheerful, wound through the green light. It wasn't the tunnel, it was home. The place I'd been running from and toward my whole life. I stepped in. The door closed behind me. Silence. Then the thumping stopped, replaced by a new sound, A single, clear note, like a music box, winding up. The inside wasn't a tunnel. It was a vein. Smooth, warm walls, pulsing gently, lined with a network of faintly glowing filaments, green, gold, amber, like capillaries carrying light instead of blood. The air hummed, a low, resonant frequency that vibrated in my chest, in my teeth, in the hollows behind my eyes. It wasn't oppressive. It was nourishing, like sinking into warm water after a lifetime of cold. The path sloped downward, gentle, winding, no branches, just the one way, forward. The golden light ahead grew brighter, closer. I heard laughter, real laughter, children's laughter, Ellie's laugh. I broke into a run. The path opened, a cavern, not a cave, a chamber, vast, cathedral-like. The walls weren't rock. They were glass. Thousands of panes fused together, forming a seamless, curved surface that stretched into darkness above. And behind the glass, movement. Figures, hundreds of them, walking, sitting, talking, playing, all in period dress, 1920s suits, 1940s dresses, 1970s bell-bottoms, all smiling, all whole, all alive. Priya stood near the center, her back to me, talking animatedly to a woman in a floral apron. She turned. Her eyes were still black, but her smile was real, peaceful. "Jamie," she called, her voice clear, unlayered. "You made it." Ben was nearby, on his knees in the soft, moss-like ground, helping a young boy fly a blue kite. He looked up, grinned. "Told you it wasn't bad." Lena stood apart, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming down her face. But she wasn't crying in fear. She was crying in relief. She saw me and ran, throwing her arms around me. "It's real," she sobbed. "It's all real. They're here." "Who?" I whispered. "The lost ones," she said, pulling back, her eyes shining. "The forgotten, the ones the world let go. The tunnel. It doesn't take. It holds." She pointed to the glass wall. I looked closer. The figures weren't just walking. They were remembered. A man in a soldier's uniform polishing his boots, humming a tune only he could hear. A little girl braiding dandelions into a crown, her mother watching with a soft smile. An old man reading a newspaper dated October 3rd, 1955 hours, the ink still fresh. And there, near the front, Ellie. She saw me, dropped the dandelion crown, ran. She crashed into me, small arms wrapping tight around my waist, burying her face in my shirt. I held her, trembling. She was warm, solid, real. "Jamie," she whispered, muffled, "I waited so long." "I'm sorry," I choked out. "I'm so sorry I left." "You didn't leave," she said, pulling back, wiping her eyes. Her face was clean, her yellow dress bright, her eyes brown, clear, hers held mine. "You got scared. The door closed. I couldn't open it from this side, but I knew you'd come back. I knew." She took my hand. "Come on, there's someone you need to see." She led me deeper into the chamber. The air grew warmer, the humming deeper, the light brighter. At the very center of the cavern stood a structure. Not a building, a tree, but not of wood, of light. A massive, pulsing column of pure golden radiance branching out into fractal patterns that mirrored the filaments in the tunnel walls. Its leaves were shimmering orbs of light, thousands of them, drifting slowly around the trunk like fireflies. Beneath it, on a simple stone bench, sat a woman, dark hair streaked with silver, tired eyes, a familiar smile. My mother, gone since '98, presumed dead. She looked up. Her smile widened. "Hello, Jamie," she said, her voice the sound of home. "Took you long enough." I fell to my knees. She held out her arms. I went into them. The scent of her, lavender and vanilla, flooded my senses. The hollow place inside me didn't just fill, it healed. She stroked my hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. We all are." She nodded toward the light tree. "The heart," she said softly. "It remembers everything, every laugh, every tear, every lost moment. It holds us, keeps us whole. When the world forgets, the heart remembers." Ellie squeezed my hand. "It's not a prison, Jamie. It's a sanctuary, a place where no one is ever truly gone." Lena joined us, sitting on a bench beside my mother, resting her head on her shoulder like a daughter. "It showed me my grandmother," she whispered, "the one who died when I was born. She sang me the lullaby my mom forgot." Ben and Priya approached, the boy with the blue kite hovering near Ben's leg. "We asked it to show us," Priya said, her black eyes gentle. "Not to take, to remember. It listens." "It's not evil," Ben added, his voice thick with emotion. "It's lonely. It needs witnesses. To prove the memories are real." My mother looked at me. "The tunnel isn't a door out, Jamie. It's a door in to what matters." She stood, took my hand. Ellie took the other. They led me to the base of the heart. The golden light was warm on my skin. The humming vibrated in my bones. My mother placed my palm flat against the trunk. The light flared. Images flooded my mind. Not memories. Truths. Ellie, not lost, but called, drawn by the heart's resonance, a child sensitive to its song. Me, fleeing in blind panic, the tunnel ceiling behind me, not to trap her, but to protect the sanctuary from the outside world's forgetting. Henry, my great-uncle, not driven mad, but overwhelmed by the sheer weight of love, the depth of memory, the sheer presence of the heart. He hadn't screamed about terror. He'd wept at the beauty of it. The ceiling in 1923, not to contain a horror, but to preserve a miracle. The town fathers, witnesses to the first emergence after the mine collapse, had understood. They'd built the shaft. They'd forged the door. They'd written the warning, "Don't open it." Not because it was dangerous, because it was precious, because the world wasn't ready, because the heart needed silence, stillness to hold its breath. Until now, until us. The light softened. My mother smiled. "It's time," she said. "Time for what?" "To choose." She gestured around the chamber. "To stay, to be remembered, to be whole, or to go back, to carry the memory, to be the witness." Ellie looked up at me, her eyes wide, trusting. "You don't have to stay, Jamie, but I hope you do." The heart pulsed. The light shifted. The chamber walls, the glass became transparent, not showing the figures, showing outside. The ravine, the black shale, the iron shaft, and standing before it, 3 figures, me, Lena, Ben, all staring at the sealed door, faces pale with terror. Me, the me who hadn't stepped through, the me still on the outside. The choice wasn't about staying or leaving. It was about which me would walk back out, the hollow one or the whole one. My mother kissed my forehead. "No wrong choice, sweetheart. Only truth." She stepped back. Ellie held my hand tighter. The heart hummed. The light waited. I looked at the outside me, terrified, alone, carrying 32 years of grief like a stone in his chest. I looked at Ellie, alive, real, here. I looked at my mother, smiling, whole. I looked at Lena and Ben, peaceful, found. The hollow place was gone, replaced by a warmth so profound it felt like the first true breath I'd taken since I was 8 years old. I squeezed Ellie's hand, turned to my mother, and nodded. She smiled. The heart pulsed once, bright, golden, complete. The glass walls faded, the chamber filled with light, not blinding, welcoming. The last thing I saw, the last thing I was the outside me. He turned away from the shaft, walked back up the ravine, didn't look back. His shoulders were straighter, his step lighter. He carried no stone. He carried a secret, a promise, a memory. He reached the top. Lena and Ben, the outside ones, were waiting. They looked at him. He looked at them. And for the first time in 32 years, he smiled, a real smile, not whole, but healing. He took their hands. They walked away from Blackwater Hollow, back toward the world. The iron shaft stood silent. The obsidian eye watched them go. Then, slowly, the green light within it faded. The fracture sealed. The iron hands clasped tight once more. The tunnel slept, holding its breath, holding its heart, holding its family, waiting for the next lost soul to find a map, to hear the whisper, to choose. The locked tunnel wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. And the most terrifying, beautiful thing about it, it only opens for those who are truly ready to come home. And this story ends here. The next one begins now. Inside the abandoned mall, every store still has fresh food. I didn't go to the mall for food. I went because I had nowhere else to be. It was late October, the kind of cold that settled into your joints and whispered about winter like a threat. My apartment had flooded, burst pipe in the unit above, and the landlord predictably shrugged and said, "Give it a week." So I packed a duffel with clothes, my laptop, a half-empty bottle of ibuprofen, and drove west on Route 28, following the GPS until it glitched and spat out a single name: Willow Creek Galleria, listed as permanently closed, demolition pending. Photos online showed chain-link fencing, boarded entrances, graffiti on the glass doors, a corpse of consumerism picked clean by time and scavengers. But when I turned off the highway, the fence wasn't there, just an access road, cracked but clear, leading to a sprawling low-rise complex half swallowed by overgrown sumac and skeletal oaks. The sign above. The main entrance still stood, faded gold lettering on teal tile. But the Galleria had peeled away, leaving only Willow Creek. One L in Willow had fallen, leaving a jagged hole like a missus tooth. The front door slid open as I approached, not with a whir or a pneumatic sigh, those systems were long dead, but with a slow, reluctant groan like a man turning in his sleep. No alarm sounded. No motion lights flickered on. The air that rushed out wasn't stale or mildewed. It smelled like bread, fresh, yeasty, warm from the oven. I hesitated. A rational part of me said, "Turn around, drive to a motel, sleep in the car if you have to." But another part, the part that hadn't slept in 2 nights, that jumped at shadows, that woke gasping from dreams of rising water and muffled screams, that part stepped inside. The atrium stretched before me, vaulted skylights above, grimy but intact. Dust motes hung in the slanted afternoon light, drifting like plankton in a amber. Fountains stood dry, their basins filled with leaves and brittle seed pods. Escalators were frozen mid-climb, steps locked in place like fossilized vertebrae, and yet the stores were open, not looted, not gutted, not boarded. Each storefront gleamed under its own soft light, fluorescent tubes humming faintly, display windows clean, mannequins posed mid-stride in last season's fashions. A bookstore, a candle shop, a boutique selling handmade soaps, and food everywhere. The Sunnyside Diner, a retro chrome and booth joint near the center court, had its opened sign lit in red cursive. Steam fogged the glass. Through the window, I saw a pot of coffee bubbling on a burner behind the counter. A plate of eggs, sunny side up, sat on the pass-through, yolks glistening, toast still steaming beside them. I pushed the door open. A bell dinged. The smell hit me like a physical thing. Bacon fat, maple syrup, black coffee, butter melting on hot griddle. "Be right with you," a voice called from the kitchen. Female, warm, familiar. I looked around. No one at the counter, no customers. I walked to the pass-through. The eggs were perfect. White firm, edges lacy, yolks trembling, unbroken. A sprig of parsley, vibrant green, dewy, rested beside the toast. I touched the plate. Warm, not hot, not reheated. Fresh. "Hungry?" the voice said again. I turned. She stood in the kitchen doorway, mid-50s, apron tied over a floral blouse, hair pinned back, smiling. She looked familiar, not in the way of someone I'd met, but in the way of someone I'd known deeply long ago. A face from childhood photos I'd lost in a move, a voice from a lullaby I could almost remember. "You must be tired," she said, stepping forward. Her shoes made no sound on the tile. "Long drive?" "How did you—" She waved a hand, gentle. "Saw your car out front. Old Camry, right? Blue with the dent on the rear fender." She smiled. "You've been carrying that dent for years." My blood went cold. It was my car. And the dent, yes. From a deer on I-80, 2019, I'd never told anyone the exact location, never posted it, just knew it. "Sit," she said, guiding me to a booth. "Let me fix you something proper." I sat. She moved behind the counter, poured coffee from the pot, black, steaming, and set a mug before me. No coaster, just the ceramic, warm under my palms. I sipped. It tasted like my grandmother's coffee. Dark roast, a pinch of salt to cut the bitterness, something she swore by, something no one else did. "How?" I began. "Some places remember," she said, flipping a burger on the griddle. The sizzle was loud, real, fat popped. "Especially the ones that were loved." "Loved?" "The Galleria opened in '87, she said, not looking at me. "Back when malls were cathedrals. People came here to celebrate birthdays, first jobs, first dates, prom photos, on the fountain steps." She plated the burger, lettuce crisp, tomato glistening, cheese molten. Places like this, they hold on to things, emotions, patterns, hunger. She set the plate down. "Eat." I didn't want to, but my stomach growled, loud, insistent. I picked up the burger. The bun was soft, slightly sweet. The beef, medium, juices pooling on the wax paper. I took a bite. It was perfect. Better than perfect. It tasted like home, like Sunday afternoons, like safety, like before everything fell apart. I finished the burger, the fries, hand-cut, skin on, salted just right, vanished next. Then the coffee, then a slice of apple pie she brought out. Still warm, lattice crust golden, cinnamon sharp in the steam. I didn't ask questions, not then, because with every bite, the gnawing anxiety in my chest about the flood, the job hunt, the silence from my sister, the way my hands shook when I hadn't eaten in hours, eased, not gone, just quieter. Like the food wasn't just nourishing my body, it was mending something else. "You're welcome to stay," she said, wiping the counter. "Guest rooms upstairs, near the old cinema. Linens are fresh." "Upstairs?" She nodded toward the escalators. "Third floor. Closed to the public, but open tonight." I shouldn't have agreed, but the pie had left me drowsy, the coffee warm in my belly, and the thought of driving back into the dark, of facing the water-stained walls and the silence of the empty apartment. "I'll take a room," I said. She handed me a key, brass, heavy, number 3 I'm 13. "No card needed," she said. "Just be back by midnight." "Why midnight?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's when the harvest ends." The escalator groaned to life as I stepped on. Rusted gears grinding, steps shuddering upward. But it held. The second floor was quieter. A bookstore with soft lamplight, shelves neatly organized, a toy store with wind-up animals poised on display, a florist where roses bloomed in buckets, petals unfurling in real time, no people, just a hum of refrigerators, the scent of paper and pine and sugar. I climbed the stairs to the third floor. It had been offices once. Now a corridor stretched before me, doors evenly spaced, each with a number and a small brass plaque. Maple, hickory, aspen, willow. Mine, 340, was willow. The door opened smoothly. A small room, twin bed with a quilted coverlet, a dresser, a window overlooking the parking lot, overgrown, yes, but with cars, dozens of them, parked neatly in rows, all facing the mall entrance, all from different decades, a 63 Impala, a 78 Pinto, a late 90s minivan with a baby on board sticker, faded but intact, and my Camry, exactly where I'd left it. I lay on the bed, didn't undress, didn't turn off the lamp on the nightstand. I watched the ceiling, listened. The mall was silent. No AC, no distant voices, just the occasional tick of cooling pipes. At 11:47 I heard it, a thump from the hallway, then another thump, thump, like something heavy being set down, then wheels, a cart, rolling, stopping outside my door. I sat up, held my breath. The doorknob turned, slowly. The door opened 6 inches. A hand appeared, pale, age-spotted, knuckles swollen with arthritis. It held a white paper bag. Steam curled from the top. The hand extended the bag into the room. Didn't speak, didn't enter, just waited. I stood, approached, took the bag, warm. The hand withdrew. The door closed. I opened the bag. Inside, a grilled cheese sandwich, crusts cut off, butter crisp and golden, and a small carton of tomato soup, still hot. My childhood comfort food, the exact way my mother made it when I was sick. Except my mother had died when I was 12, and she never cut the crusts. I set the bag on the dresser, didn't eat, went to the window, looked down. The parking lot was empty. All the cars were gone, except mine. And now, parked directly in front of the main entrance, a 1972 International Harvester Lodestar refrigerated truck. White, with faded green lettering on the side, Willow Creek delivery, fresh daily, no returns. The rear door stood open. Inside, darkness, and stacked floor-to-ceiling cardboard boxes, each stamped with a red wax seal, not a logo, a symbol, a circle. Inside it, a single eye, lidded, watching. Beneath it, in small print, harvest batch. 11:47, expires, midnight. My phone buzzed, no signal, but a text appeared. You have 12 minutes. Eat the meal, return the tray, or join the inventory. I looked at the sandwich, at the soup. My stomach twisted, not with hunger now, with dread. I opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the cart remained. Stainless steel, old-fashioned, with a pull-out tray at chest height on it. My empty coffee mug from the diner, my pie plate, my burger wrapper, folded neatly, and the grilled cheese, waiting. I picked up the tray, walked downstairs. The mall was different now, darker. The store lights were still on, but the glow was dimmer, yellowed, like old film. The Sunnyside diner was closed. Open sign flipped to closed. But the kitchen light burned. I pushed the door. The bell didn't ding. She stood at the grill, not cooking, washing dishes, her back to me. Steam rose from the sink. "I brought a tray," I said. She didn't turn. "Set it on the counter." I did. She rinsed a mug, set it in the drainer. "You didn't eat the sandwich?" she said. "No." "Why not?" "It's not real." She turned. Her face was the same, but her eyes, no whites, no pupils, just deep, glossy black, like wet obsidian. "You think real means alive?" she asked softly. "Honey, the freshest things are always the ones that just stopped breathing." She gestured to the display case. It held desserts, cheesecake, chocolate torte, fruit tarts, all perfect, all glistening, all labeled with small handwritten cards. I leaned closer. The cards didn't say flavor. They said names. Evelyn, 47, pancreatic. Marcus, 19, carotid. Darla, 33, aneurysm. Thomas, 68, cardiac. And one, smaller, newer ink. Ben, 31. My name, my age, a question mark. "The food isn't made here," she said, drying her hands. "It's curated, preserved. The mall, it doesn't waste. It honors." "What happens at midnight?" "The truck leaves," she said, "takes the day's harvest back to the source." "And if I'm not harvested," she smiled, "then you become part of the staff." She nodded toward the kitchen. I followed her gaze. A man stood at the fryer, wearing a grease-stained apron, his face slack, pale, lips slightly parted, his eyes empty, black. He held a basket of fries, didn't move, didn't blink, just stood, waiting for an order that would never come. "That's Carl," she said. "He missed curfew in '09. Now he keeps the oil hot forever." The clock above the pass-through ticked. 11:58. "I have to go," I said. "You can't." "Watch me." I turned for the door. She didn't stop me, just said, "The doors only open in after 11:55. I ran, past the bookstore, the toy store, the florist, where the roses had wilted in seconds, petals blackening, crumbling to dust as I passed. The main entrance doors. I hit them, pushed, nothing, pulled, rattled the handles, locked, not mechanically, intentionally. I pounded on the glass. Outside, the truck's engine turned over, a deep diesel roar. Headlights flared, blinding white, sweeping across the atrium floor. The refrigerated doors slammed shut. Clang! The truck began to roll forward, not toward the exit, toward the mall. It drove through the glass doors, not shattering them. Passing through, like the glass was mist, it entered the atrium, stopped, idling. Exhaust fumes, sweet, cloying, filled the air. The rear doors opened, darkness yawned, and from within it began. Boxes slid out, not dropped. Placed, one, by hands, pale, bone-thin, emerging from the black, setting the boxes in a neat grid on the tile. Each box bore a name, a date, a cause. The hands retreated. The door stayed open. A voice came from inside the truck, not amplified, not mechanical. A chorus, whispering, hundreds of voices, overlapping, gentle, insistent. "Ben, you're hungry. You're so tired. Just come inside. The food is warm. The bed is made. No more running, no more fear. Join the harvest. The woman from the diner stood beside me now, her hand on my arm. Cold, dry, like old paper. You don't have to. Go in the truck, she said. You can stay, work, serve. Remember, we keep the good parts, the love, the laughter, the taste of your mother's pie. Tears burned my eyes because I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to stop being afraid, to stop being alone, to have hot food and a clean bed and someone who knew me. But then I looked at Carl in the diner window, standing, always standing, oil bubbling, forever. The clock struck midnight, a single deep bong from a place that shouldn't have a bell. The truck's headlights pulsed. The whispering rose to a hum. The woman's grip tightened. Choose, she said. I looked down at my hand, clutched in my fist, the brass key. 3 wiring, still warm. I threw it, not at her. At the skylight above the fountain, it arced. A flash of gold shattered the grimy glass. Cold night air rushed in. Rain followed, hard, sudden. The whispering faltered. The headlights dimmed. The woman hissed. "Ow!" Sound like steam escaping a pipe, and pulled back. I ran, not toward the doors, toward the fire exit beside the bookstore. Pushed the bar. It gave. Cold rain hit my face. I stumbled into the overgrown lot. My Camry was there, engine running, doors unlocked. I threw myself inside, slammed the door, drove, didn't look back, didn't stop until sunrise. I told myself it was over. But that was 3 weeks ago, and last night I opened my fridge. Empty, except for a white paper bag on the middle shelf. Steam rising. Inside, the grilled cheese, crusts cut off, and beneath it, a small card, handwritten. Bin 31, final batch. The ink was still wet. Outside, the rain started again, and far off, so faint I might have imagined it, the low diesel growl of an engine. Turning onto my street, and this story ends here. The next one begins now. Housekeeping logs listed guests who never checked in but ordered daily room service. I took the job at the Bellwether because the alternative was sleeping under the Morrison Bridge with the other ghosts of Portland's homeless. Not literal ghosts, though after Bellwether I wasn't so sure. Just ghosts of people. The kind with hollow eyes and cardboard signs that said anything helps. My savings vanished. When the tech startup, I'd bet my 20s on folded overnight. My apartment followed when rent swallowed my severance. The Craigslist ad was a fluke. Posted at 3 a.m., no photos, just a phone number and a promise. Housekeeping supervisor, 25 al-Qarar cash, immediate start, must ignore anomalies. The voice on the other end was female, brittle, speaking through the static of a dying landline. Be here by 6 a.m., bring your own gloves, and for God's sake, don't read the logs. The Bellwether Hotel wasn't on any map, nestled in a forgotten alley behind. Chinatown's rotten pagodas, it was a 1920s Art Deco corpse draped in ivy and pigeon filth. Its lobby doors were chained shut, the glass panes fogged with decades of grime. I knocked on a service entrance marked Staff Only Biosolids Removal. A woman opened it. Late 60s, hair dyed an unnatural violet, uniform stiff with starch despite the frayed cuffs. Her name tag read Doris Rooms. She didn't smile. You're late. Logs are in the cart, sheets in the bin, vacuum's broken, and don't touch the silver tray on room 13's cart. She shoved a rusted janitor's cart at me, its wheels shrieking like tortured cats. Start with floors 4 through 6. Skip 13. always skip 13. The cart held a battered clipboard, the bellwether housekeeping log ledger, leather-bound, water-stained, filled with cramped handwriting and fading blue ink, room numbers, dates, standard stuff, until I flipped to last week. Room 1301, March 12th. Guest, Mr. Alistair Finch, checked in. Never room service order, 2 eggs over easy, black coffee, wheat toast. Notes, tray left outside door at 8:03 a.m. Returned at 8:47 a.m. Plate empty. Coffee cup refilled with rainwater. Room 1307, March 13th. Guest, Miss Eleanor Voss. Checked in. Never room service order, chicken broth, saltines, glass of warm milk. Notes, tray untouched, broth congealed, milk curdled, saltines arranged in a circle around the bowl. Eleanor Voss, from Camp Everstill. The name hit me like a fist. I'd read her journal entry about the hole in the woods, about Sarah Miller. How was she here? In a hotel log? Doris appeared beside me, materializing from the shadows of a hallway. I told you not to read them. Her voice was flat. Those guests aren't ours. They're tenants, and tenants pay their dues. She tapped the log with a bony finger. Room service isn't for eating. It's for remembering. What does that mean? She turned away, pushing her own cart down the hall. The bellwether doesn't forget. It collects, like a spider's web. Grief, regret. The things people leave behind when they die alone in cheap motel rooms. The stillness is hungry, and room service feeds it. She paused at a door marked Staff Only. Your cart's got a full shift, and the silver tray on 13's cart, that's not for you. That's for her. Room 13's cart sat at the end of the 4th floor hallway. On it rested a tarnished silver tray, covered by a frayed linen cloth. I lifted the cloth. No food, just a single teacup, cracked porcelain, stained brown at the rim. My mother's teacup, the one I'd smashed against the Ravenswood Grand's mirror months ago, the one I'd left in a dumpster behind a Greyhound station in Boise. It sat on the tray, filled to the brim with black liquid that smelled of lake water and wet roses. I dropped the cloth, backed away. My hand shook. This wasn't possible. This was my grief, my ghost, not some hotel's. Doris found me slumped against the wall. She didn't ask why I was crying, just pressed a fresh logbook into my hands. New shift, new rules. You clean the rooms. You log what you see. You don't question the orders, and you never look in the mirrors after midnight. She pointed to a streak of grime on the wall. That's not dirt. It's residue from when guests try to claw their way out of the glass. I worked in silence. Floors 4 through 6 were tombs. Dust lay thick as snow on velvet drapes and clawfoot tubs. In room 412, I found a suitcase under the bed, packed with 1940s women's clothes, a floral dress, stockings, a pearl necklace. The log entry for that room read, Room 4012, March 14th. Guest, Mrs. Evelyn Shaw checked in. Never room service order. Gin martini, extra dry, bowl of olives. Notes, olives replaced with lake stones. Gin bottle filled with black water. Martini glass left on windowsill facing the alley. The stones were smooth, river polished. One had a scratch in the shape of a child's handprint. I pocketed it. A mistake. That night, I couldn't sleep in the staff quarters. A windowless basement room smelling of bleach and despair. At 2:17 a.m., the intercom crackled to life. Not Doris's voice, a child's, gurgling, wet. Room service for room 1313, please. The logbook lay open on my cot. I flipped to today's date. Blank. I grabbed a pen. My hand moved on its own. Room 1313, March 15. Guest, Sarah Miller. Checked in, never room service order. Grilled cheese sandwich, chocolate milk, apple slices. Notes, I stopped writing. Sarah Miller. The girl from the lake at Camp Everstill. The one buried in the woods. The one who sang Row, row, row your boat from the dark water. I tore the page out, threw it in the trash. But when I turned back, the logbook was open again. The entry was there, complete. My handwriting. But the note section now read, plate licked clean. Chocolate milk poured into floorboards. Apple core placed on pillow. Guest requested the story about the boat, but housekeeper refused. Guest wept. Sound recorded. 37 seconds of sobbing. Transferred to archive. The intercom crackled again. Louder. Closer. You forgot the story. I ran to the service elevator. The button for 13 was uncovered, glowing faintly green. I pressed it. The door slid open on darkness. The smell hit me first. Roses, wet earth, the metallic tang of deep water, and beneath it, the sweet rot of forgotten fruit. Floor 13 wasn't sealed. It was waiting. The hallway stretched into impossible darkness, lit only by sconces dripping black wax. Every door stood ajar. From within came the clink of cutlery, the murmur of voices, the sigh of a bed settling under unseen weight. I followed the sound of a child humming. Stopped at room 1313. The door was open. Inside, moonlight streamed through a window overlooking a void, not the city, but an endless black lake. On the bed sat Sarah Miller, not bloated, not blue, just a girl in a yellow sundress, her hair damp, her feet dangling above the floor. On the nightstand sat the silver tray, empty plates, a glass of chocolate milk, half drunk, an apple core on the pillow. She looked up. Her eyes were the color of lake silt. You didn't bring the story? I don't know any stories, I whispered. You do. She patted the space beside her on the bed. The one about the boat. The one that doesn't sink. I can't stay. Everyone stays. She pointed to the corner. A chair sat facing the window. In it sat a figure. A woman in a floral dress, her back turned, her shoulders shaken with silent sobs. Eleanor Voss. From the journal. From the hole. She forgot her story, so the lake took it. Now she waits for someone to remember for her. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. The bellwether collects stories, the sad ones, the ones that end in rain. A key turned in the lock. Doris stood in the doorway, her violet hair a halo in the gloom. She didn't seem surprised. Time to go, dear. Staff curfew? She nodded at Sarah. Guest 1313, your tray will be refreshed at dawn with the story. Sarah smiled, a smile too wide for her face. Tomorrow. I'll wait. Back in the basement, Doris made tea on a hot plate. Not in mugs, in hotel room service cups. You saw her, she said, not looking at me. Sarah Miller, drowned in Blackwater Lake, 1987. Her mother threw herself in after. The lake couldn't keep them both. So the bellwether took the grief, took the need to be remembered. She slid a cup toward me. The liquid was black. Smelled of roses. This hotel isn't haunted by the dead. It's haunted by the unfinished. The apologies never spoken. The goodbyes never said. The stories never told. Room service is how we feed them, how we keep the stillness from spilling out into the world. Why me? I asked, my voice raw. She finally met my eyes. Hers were the color of old bruises. Because you carry a story. Your mother's. The one you never finished telling her before the cancer took her voice. You left it in that teacup you broke. The bellwether found it. like it finds all lost things. She tapped the logbook on the table. They're not guests, they're vacancies, and vacancies must be filled. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I found the archive. It wasn't a room. It was a closet behind a boiler, shelves lined with cassette tapes labeled in the same blue ink as the logs. Eleanor Voss, Hole in the Woods, Alistair Finch, Rainwater Coffee, Mildred Calloway, The Chair on 13, and one labeled Alice, Mother's Teacup. My name, my pain. I played it. My own voice shaky with tears. And I never told her I forgave her for leaving me with Dad. I never said I understood why she stayed with him after he hit her. I just stopped visiting. After the hospice called, I was too ashamed to go. The last thing I saw was that stupid teacup on her nightstand, the one with the chip on the handle. I threw it against the wall when I got home, shards everywhere, like us. The tape ended with static, then a child's whisper, "She wants you to sit to finish the story." I quit that day, packed my duffel. Doris didn't try to stop me, just handed me an envelope stuffed with cash. "The stillness follows you," she said, her hand brushing mine. Her skin was cold. "It always finds the unfinished." I drove east, stopped in a Nebraska town called Willow Creek, rented a studio above a hardware store. No hotel logos on the towels, no room service menus under the door. I bought new dishes, threw out the rock with the child's handprint, buried it in the backyard. For 3 weeks it worked. Then the teacup appeared, not on a silver tray, on my kitchen counter. My mother's cracked porcelain cup, filled with black water that smelled of roses. The logbook sat beside it, open to a fresh page. My handwriting, Room 13A, March 29. Guest, Alice, mother's daughter. Checked in, never room service order, nothing, notes. Guest refuses to sit, refuses to remember. Tray left outside door, returned untouched. Cup refilled with lake water. Guest's shadow seen in window at 3 a.m., facing the alley. I threw the cup against the wall. It shattered. I swept the pieces into the trash. The next morning, it was whole again. On the counter, full. The logbook entry had changed. Notes, guest broke vessel. Vessel repaired. Guest's shadow now sits in the chair, facing the window, waiting for the story. I packed a car that night, headed for the coast, stopped at a motel in Santa Cruz, neon signs, salty air, the roar of the Pacific. Room 7, ocean view. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, pushed the single armchair into the closet. At 3:13 a.m., I woke to the smell of roses. The room was freezing. Moonlight bled through the window, and in the center of the room, facing the ocean, sat the chair. Not the motel's plastic one, the armchair from room 1313 at the Bellwether, floral upholstery frayed at the edges. On the seat cushion lay the teacup, full. The ocean's roar faded. In its place, the gentle lap of black water against the shore. Sarah Miller stood in the corner, dripping lake water onto the carpet. "She's waiting," she said. Her voice echoed with the sound of children singing underwater. "The story won't end until you tell it." Behind her, the window wasn't glass anymore. It was the surface of Blackwater Lake, and beneath it, sitting on the silt-covered floor in a circle of bones, were the faces from the logs. Eleanor Voss, Alistair Finch, Mildred Calloway, all facing upward, all holding teacups filled with dark water, all watching me. Sarah pointed to the chair. "Sit, finish the story, then you can rest." I walked to the chair. The wood was warm. The floral pattern felt familiar, like the armchair in my mother's living room, the one she died in. I sat down. The scraping stopped. The cold lifted. The smell of roses faded, replaced by antiseptic and the faint scent of my mother's lavender hand cream. Moonlight warmed my face. Outside the window, the lake water cleared. My mother floated there, not bloated or broken, but as I remembered her before the sickness, soft eyes, gentle smile. She pressed a palm against the glass. Her mouth moved. No sound came through, but I knew the words. She'd whispered them to me the last time I saw her conscious. "I'm sorry I wasn't stronger." Behind her, in the dark water, the others watched, not with hunger, with patience, waiting for their own stories to be told. The teacup on my lap filled itself, not with lake water, with hot, steaming Earl Grey, the way she used to make it. I lifted it to my lips. The warmth spread through my chest. The words came then, unbidden, as smooth as the tea. "It's not your fault, Mom. I know you tried. I forgive you. I forgive me. I should have been there. I should have held your hand." Tears streamed down my face, hot and cleansing. "I love you. I always did." The cup emptied itself. My mother's reflection smiled. Not the broken smile of hospice, the smile from my childhood photos, the one that crinkled the corners of her eyes. She raised a hand, not in farewell, in peace. Sarah Miller took my hand. Her skin was cool but not clammy. "Good," she whispered. "Now you remember. Now you can stay." She led me to the window. The glass rippled like water. I stepped through. The lake was warm, silent. The others made room in their circle. Mildred Calloway patted the silt beside her. Alistair Finch offered me a teacup filled with starlight. Eleanor Voss hummed a tune I almost recognized. Above us, the surface shimmered. Through it, I saw the motel room. The chair sat empty, facing the window. The teacup on the cushion was gone. In its place lay the logbook, open. The final entry read, "Room 13, March 23. Guest, Alice, mother's daughter, checked in, forever. Room service order, peace. Notes, story completed. Guest seated. Vacancy filled. Downstairs, the motel clerk checked the ledger. No record of room 7 ever being occupied. But at the Bellwether Hotel, Doris placed a fresh logbook on the cart for floor 13. She wrote one entry, Room 1314, March 24. Guest, the clerk from Santa Cruz, checked in. Never room service order. Coffee, black. Notes, tray left, outside door. Returned empty. Cup refilled with rainwater. She covered the cart with a linen cloth. On top, she placed a single item, a motel room key card, still warm from a human hand. The elevator chimed. Doris pressed the button for 13. The doors closed. The stillness waited. And that's where this story ends. Let's move on to the next one. We discovered a train station with no tracks leading in or out. It wasn't on any map. Not the state transportation archives, not the abandoned rail enthusiast forums, not even the hand-drawn topo survey from 1947 that Theo swore was comprehensive. Cass called it a glitch, a cartographic blind spot, a fold in the landscape where surveyors' lines had failed to converge. I called it a pull, because the moment we crested the ridge above Cedar Hollow, we knew, not with our eyes, with our bones. A low subsonic thrum, 0.7 hertz, Theo's analyzer would later confirm, vibrated up through the soles of our boots, resonating in our molars, our sternums, the hollows behind our ears, like standing too close to a massive transformer or the heartbeat of something vast and buried. And the smell, not pine, not damp earth, ozone, hot iron, old paper, and beneath it, the dry, papery scent of forgotten time. We pushed through the thicket of skeletal birches, branches snagging our jackets like desperate fingers, and there it was. Cedar Hollow Station, a single-story structure of weathered cedar shingles and fieldstone, nestled in a natural bowl of the valley, a steeply pitched roof, slate tiles green with moss, a cupola with a bell, silent, rusted, double doors of oak, brass handles, tarnished black, and no tracks, not buried, not overgrown. Absent. The ground before the station was smooth, undisturbed earth, frost heaved in places, carpeted with brown ferns and patches of snowmelt-slick lichen. No ballast, no ties, no scars in the soil where rails might have been torn up. Just the station. Waiting. Cass lowered her camera. Impossible. No foundation for a rail bed, no embankment, no drainage ditches. This place was never connected. Theo scanned the perimeter with his EMF rig. 0 readings, no power lines, no cell signal. It's acoustically isolated, like the valley swallow sound. I didn't answer. I was looking at the doors, not closed, inviting. A faint seam of light, warm amber, bled from the crack between them, and on the transom above, painted in peeling gold leaf. All aboard. Departures. Always. Arrivals. Soon. Lena, quiet, watchful Lena, who hadn't spoken since we left the car, stepped forward. She placed her palm flat against the oak. "It's warm," she whispered, "like it's breathing." The doors swung inward, not with a creak. With a sigh, warm air rushed out, steam, coffee, old books, and the faint sweet tang of fermented apples. We stepped inside. The waiting room was immaculate, not preserved. Occupied. Bench seats of polished walnut, cushions plump and floral, a pot-belly stove in the corner, fire crackling, casting dancing light on the walls, a ticket window with brass grillwork, shade half drawn, a departures board above it, slate chalked in neat looping script. Next train, 2, the other side, departs now. Platform 1, status, boarding. No arrival times, no destinations beyond. The other side, no conductor's name, just the train. Now, Cass checked her watch. 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes to midnight. If it's a looped signal, she trailed off, because the slate board changed, not erased, rewritten in real time. The chalk moved from left to right as if guided by an invisible hand. Next train, 2, the other side departs now. Platform 1, status, boarding. Passengers, Cassandra, Theodore, Elena, Elias. Seats reserved, loyalty rewarded. Our names, full names, not nicknames, the ones our mothers used when we were in trouble, the ones we hadn't heard in decades. Lena walked to the ticket window, peered through the brass grill. "It's empty," she said, "but the ledger's open." I joined her. Inside the booth, dust motes dancing in the lamplight. A ledger lay open on the counter, leather-bound. Pages yellowed, brittle. The current entry. Date, November 13th, 2025. Time, 23:58. Passengers, Foropware. Destination, the other side. Fare, paid in memories. Condition, binding. Oath, honored. Beneath it, 4 lines, blank, for signatures. A pen lay beside it. Bone, femur. Tip sharpened to a point, dipped in black ink. Not ink. Dried blood. Theo backed toward the doors. "Eli, look!" He pointed at the floor. The oak planks weren't wood. Bone, fused vertebrae, smoothed by time and passage. Between the seams, thin lines of phosphorescent green, pulsing in time with the thrum, forming a pattern, not random, a map. Cedar Hollow Station, but altered. No tracks leading in, one track leading down. Labeled in glowing script, Platform. 1. The descent, room B7. Below it, words, all aboard. No returns. Loyalty is rewarded. The stove fire flared, not orange, green, and in its light I saw them projected onto the far wall, not shadows. Scenes. A family, mother, father, boy, girl, sitting on the bench, laughing, eating apples. The mother hands the girl a slice. The girl takes it, bites. Her jaw moves slowly, too slowly, her eyes wide, unblinking, full of tears that don't fall. The father checks his pocket watch, not brass. Bone, he whispers. Time to go, my love. The train is waiting. The boy resists. The father breaks his wrist, not with anger, with patience. Like snapping a twig, the girl doesn't cry. She looks at the fire, smiles. It's okay. Her lips form. The swing is waiting. They stand, walk to the ticket window, sign the ledger. The ink spreads, green, glowing. They descend. The doors close. The parents return to the bench, sit, fold their hands, wait. The fire snaps. The vision fades. Lena sat on the bench, not at a named seat, at the head, where no plate rested. She folded her hands, looked at the fire. They're almost ready, she said. Who? Cass asked, voice tight. The other two. A log shifted in the stove, not with a crackle, with a groan, like something stretching. The green flames flared, and the thump, thump, thump began. Not from the walls, from beneath the floor, like a heart or a fist, knocking from the basement. Theo moved to the trapdoor, a square of oak, iron ring handle, set into the floorboards beside the rug. It wasn't latched, just closed. He knelt, listened. The thump was clearer, closer, and beneath it, a wet, rhythmic shush, 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 like something being dragged across stone. He reached for the ring. I grabbed his wrist. Don't. He looked at me. His eyes weren't his, not scared. Hungry. He smiled, a small, tight thing. They're setting the table downstairs, he said, for the main course. Cass backed toward the door. It was closed, not locked, just shut. The bolt slid home with a soft click. No hand touched it. The apples in the bowl on the ticket counter twitched, not rolling, breathing. Lena stood, walked to the stove, picked up the poker, not iron, bone. Femur, polished, smooth, capped with blackened antler. She stirred the fire. The green flames flared, and in the light, I saw it, projected onto the log wall, a train, not steel. Bone. Locomotive shaped like a skull. Smokestack exhaling green vapor. Cars, rib cages fused together, windows glowing amber, coupled by chains thick as wrists, and on the side of the lid car, painted in peeling gold, the loyalty, express, non-stop to the other side. Seats reserved. Lena lowered the poker. The salt is important, she said, returning to the bench. She picked up the apple bowl. It helps the body accept the change. She sprinkled a pinch of coarse sea salt over an apple slice. The fruit. You twitched. Cass grabbed her pack. Keys, phone, anything. All dead. Batteries drained, screens black. Except Lena's sketchbook, left open on the bench. Pages flutter, not from wind, from beneath. A new drawing forms, pencil lines appearing on blank paper, fast, frenzied. A station, a bench, 4 seats, 4 names, and in the center, a 5th seat, unmarked, surrounded by symbols, a broken chain, a key, a swing, a heart, split down the middle. Below it, words. They're waiting for you to sit. They're waiting for you to eat. They're waiting for you to remember. You promised to come back. You promised to fill the empty seat. I knew the promise, not consciously, in my bones, in the scar on my left wrist, the one shaped like a tiny handprint, the one that burned when I stepped inside. Lena looked at me. Her eyes weren't green gold now, black, like river stones, like the void between stars. "Do you remember the swing, Elias?" she asked. "The one in the basement, the one with the chains that don't squeak, the one that holds two but only works with three?" The thump, thump, thump grew louder. The shush, 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 closer. The trapdoor handle rattled, not from below, from above. Something was on the roof, walking, stopping, directly over the bench. A drop of liquid fell from the ceiling, not water, thick, amber, smelling of apples and iron. It landed in the apple bowl. The slices bit it, dissolved. Cass screamed, ran for the window. The glass didn't shatter, it softened, like wax. Her hand sank into it, up to the wrist. She pulled back. Her skin was gone, not torn, absorbed beneath the raw pink flesh, tiny black seeds pulsing. Theo laughed, a wet gurgling sound. He lifted an apple slice, ate it. The stain spread up his cheeks, into his eyes. "Finally," he sighed, "I'm home." He walked to the trapdoor, grabbed the ring, pulled. The door opened, not to darkness, to light, green, pulsing, and the smell overpowering now. Apples, rotting, and beneath it, the coppery reek of blood and something else. Childhood, crayons, rain on pavement, the inside of a mother's wrist. Steps descended into the light. Not Theo, not anymore. His body moved, but his head lolled, spine bent at an impossible angle, limbs twitching like a marionette with cut strings. He reached the bottom. A voice rose, not his, a chorus, children singing. Back and forth, hand in hand, across the dark, across the land. Cass collapsed, clutching her wrist. The seeds were sprouting, tendrils thin as hair curling around her bones. Lena sat at the head of the bench. She picked up an apple slice, held it out to me. "Eat, Elias," she said. Mara said, "You're hungry. We're all hungry. The station feeds us. It keeps us. It loves us. All it asks is that we sit, that we eat, that we remember who we were before the fall." I looked at the ledger. Elias. The apple steamed, the salt dish waited, and beneath the fruit, etched into the wood, visible only when the firelight hit it, just so, a date. August 12th, 1958. The day Holloway Playground opened, the day Mara and her father took their first ride, the day I, Elias, let go, the day the swing broke, the day the river took her, the day I jumped in after her, the day I drowned, the day I woke up here, in the station, at the bench, with an empty seat, waiting for my daughter, for my friend, for my brother, for myself. The trapdoor exhaled. A green light spilled across the floor, cold, hungry. Lena, Mara, smiled. Her teeth were small, sharp, perfect. "Come on, Daddy," she whispered. "Sit, eat, remember. The train is waiting, and this time we won't let go." I picked up the apple slice. The fruit was tender, sweet, salty. And as I chewed, I remembered, not the fall, the promise. If one of us falls, the other jumps too. We jumped. We drowned. We were found. By the station, by the thing in the basement, by the swing that needs 3 to turn. The seeds in Cass's wrist burst into tiny white flowers. Theo's song rose from below, clearer now. "Hold my hand and don't let go." Lena took my hand. Her skin was cold, not dead. Preserved. The bone poker lay beside the ledger. I picked it up, not to fight, to stir. I lifted the fire's green heart, and beneath the flames I saw it, the train, not steel. Bone. 2 seats in the lead car, one small, one tall, and in the center, chains thick as wrists, fused to a 3rd seat. Empty, waiting. For me. The station doesn't take strangers. It recalls its family. It gathers the lost, the broken, the ones who swore on swings, on stars, on blood, that they'd never be apart. And when they return, dinner is always ready. The salt is always poured. The seats are always named. And the empty one, the one at the head of the bench, it's not for a guest, it's for the host, the one who broke the promise, the one who let go, the one who must sit to finally hold on. So I sit, I eat, I remember, and as the green light fills the station, as the song swells, as Mara's small hand tightens in mine, I finally understand. The most terrifying thing about the train station with no tracks isn't the departure board, it's the moment you realize you were the 4th passenger. You've always been here, you never left, you just forgot. And forgetting is the first course. The main course is remembering. And dessert? Dessert is the train, waiting on platform 1, with 3 seats, all full, all smiling, all hungry. For the next family, the next promise, the next fall, because the station is always open, the ledger is always ready, and the salt is always waiting to help you accept the change. All aboard. That's where this story ends. Let's continue with the next. We found an abandoned resort. The guest list ends with our names. The listing was absurd. Grand Willow Creek Lodge, historic charm, off-grid serenity, 4 to 5 night. Posted on a sketchy forum under Too Good to Be True Rentals. My friend Leo, perpetually broke after film school and nursing a shattered heart, saw it as a sign. "Dude," he'd said, waving his phone under my nose in the stale air of our cramped apartment, "it's practically free. 2 nights in the Catskills, we can shoot that atmospheric drone footage you've been talking about. Real Overlook hotel vibes, but like affordable." He'd grinned, that reckless glint back in his eyes for the first time in months. I should have said no. I should have Googled Grand Willow Creek Lodge properly. But the rent was due, my own bank account was bleeding red, and the promise of cheap, isolated mountains air felt like a lifeline. The owner, a man named Silas Thorne, listed only as caretaker, communicated solely through terse, typo-ridden texts. Payment was cash only, left in a lockbox by the rotting service entrance. No photos beyond a single grainy shot of a sagging porch. Just coordinates. It felt wrong. It felt desperate. We went anyway. The drive up the overgrown service road was a gauntlet of warning signs nature provided. Ancient oaks, heavy with Spanish moss like funeral veils, scraped the roof of Leo's battered Jeep. The GPS died miles back, replaced by a gnawing sense of isolation that thickened with every mile. The coordinates led us not to a grand lodge, but to a crumbling monolith swallowed by the wilderness. Grand Willow Creek Lodge wasn't just abandoned, it was being actively consumed. Its once proud stone facade was stained black with decades of damp, fissured by tree roots snaking through cracked mortar. Most windows were boarded haphazardly with plywood gone silver gray, others gaped like empty toothless sockets. The wraparound porch sagged violently in the middle, several planks missing entirely, revealing the dark maw beneath. An oppressive silence hung over the place, broken only by the drone of insects and the unsettling drip, drip, drip of water from a broken gutter onto the mossy steps. The air smelled thickly of wet earth, decay, and something else, faintly sweet like forgotten fruit left to rot in a damp cellar. Leo killed the engine, the sudden quiet pressing in. "Whoa," he breathed, not with awe, but with a dawning unease. "This is intense." He fumbled for his camera, the click of the shutter unnaturally loud. I just stared at the peeling paint on the front door, the intricate floral pattern barely visible beneath grime and grime. The lockbox, a rusted metal cube chained to a porch post, held a single heavy iron key. It felt cold and unnaturally heavy in my hand. Inside, the smell intensified. Mildew, dust thick enough to taste, and that cloying sweetness, now underscored by a sharper tang like old pennies. The grand lobby was a tomb. Moonlight, weak and gray, filtered through the boarded windows, illuminating swirling dust motes dancing in the beams. A massive stone fireplace dominated one wall, its hearth filled not with ashes, but with decades of accumulated dead leaves and twigs blown in through broken panes. Velvet drapes, once deep burgundy, hung in tattered shreds. Furniture lay overturned, shrouded in ghostly white sheets that seemed to shift slightly in the stale air currents. The floorboards groaned a chorus of complaints under our tentative steps, the sound echoing unnaturally in the cavernous space. My boots crunched on broken glass near the reception desk, a massive carved oak monstrosity. Behind it, on a shelf, sat a thick leather-bound ledger. Its cover was cracked and stiff. Against all reason, I opened it. The pages were brittle, covered in elegant faded script, listing names and dates spanning the 1920s to the late 1950s. The ink was sepia brown. The last entry, dated October 31st, 1957, read, "Silas Thorne, permanent stay." Below it, the page was blank until I turned it. There, in the same faded brown ink, as if written moments before we arrived, were two new lines. Leo Vance, room 217, October 27, 2026. Ben Carter, room 218, October 27, 2026. My blood turned to ice. "Leo, look at this." My voice sounded thin, reedy. He peered over my shoulder, his earlier excitement evaporating. "What the hell? That's impossible. That ink's old. And how did it know our names? Our rooms?" He flipped back frantically. All the other entries were decades old. This was fresh. Too fresh. The air in the lobby seemed to thicken, the dust motes slowing their dance. A low, almost subsonic hum vibrated through the floorboards, setting my teeth on edge. It wasn't machinery. It felt alive. Our assigned rooms were down a long, shadowed corridor on the second floor. The stairs groaned like dying things beneath us. The hallway wallpaper, once opulent floral patterns, was peeling away in long, curling strips, revealing damp, black-stained plaster beneath. Water stains bloomed like Rorschach blots on the ceiling. Room 217's door stuck, the wood swollen with humidity. Leo finally shouldered it open with a splintering crack. Inside was marginally better than the lobby. A single dusty bed frame, a nightstand missing a drawer, a window overlooking the overgrown tennis courts, now just a tangle of weeds and broken netting. The air was colder here, smelling sharply of damp wool and that persistent, cloying sweetness. Leo dropped his bag. "Okay, weird guest book aside, cheap is cheap, right? We'll get the shots tomorrow, blow this popsicle stand by noon. He forced a grin, but it didn't reach his eyes. He kept glancing towards the open door down the dark hallway. My room 2018 was identical, just across the hall. The same pervasive chill, the same smell. The bed frame was rusted, the mattress long gone, leaving only springs. I dropped my pack, the sound echoing too loudly. I tried my phone. No signal. Leo's drone wouldn't connect to his controller. The Wi-Fi password Silas Thorne had texted, W. Wamolo Creek forever, yielded nothing but error messages. We were truly off-grid, truly alone, or so we thought. Dinner was protein bars eaten in near silence on the creaking porch steps, watching the last bruised light of dusk bleed out over the skeletal trees. The forest sounds, crickets, distant owls, felt muffled, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. The resort loomed behind us, a hulking silhouette against the twilight sky, its blank windows seeming to watch us. That subsonic hum was fainter out here, but still present, a vibration in the marrow of my bones. Sleep was impossible. The cold seeped through my sleeping bag on the bare floorboards. Every groan of the old building, the settling timber, the wind whistling through unseen cracks, sounded like deliberate footsteps. Then, around 2 a.m., I heard it, faint at first, coming from the hallway. Scritch, 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 like fingernails, slow and deliberate, dragging along the peeling wallpaper. It stopped right outside my door. I held my breath, heart hammering against my ribs. Silence. Then a soft, wet click, like a throat being cleared. It lingered for a long minute. Then the scraping sound moved down the hall, stopping outside Leo's door. I heard his muffled curse, the rustle of him sitting up. The sound didn't resume. It just waited. I didn't sleep again that night. I watched the sliver of moonlight on the floorboards, straining my ears until dawn painted the sky a sickly gray. Morning brought no relief, only a deeper unease. The air felt heavier, the silence more watchful. Leo looked pale, shadows like bruises under his eyes. It was at my door. He whispered over instant coffee brewed on a camping stove in the lobby. Just standing there, breathing. I swear I heard it. Breathing. He wouldn't elaborate. We decided to explore, to find something, anything to film, to prove we'd been here, to shake off the dread. The lower floors were a maze of decay, a ballroom with a collapsed chandelier buried in plaster dust, a dining room where chairs lay scattered like bones after a feast, a kitchen with rusted appliances and shelves coated in a thick gray sludge. The smell of decay was strongest here, that metallic sweet odor almost overwhelming. In a small office off the kitchen, we found more ledgers, all filled with names ending in 1957, and photographs. Faded black and whites of smiling guests in old-fashioned bathing suits by a now dry, cracked concrete pool, couples dancing under paper lanterns in the ballroom, a stern-faced man in a suit standing before the fireplace. Silas Thorne, I assumed. His eyes, even in the photograph, seemed to follow you. We found the old guest wing, a separate two-story structure connected by a glass-enclosed breezeway, now mostly shattered glass and twisted metal. Inside, the decay was even worse. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling into stagnant puddles on the carpet, which squelched underfoot. The air was thick with the smell of rotting fabric and something vaguely organic, like spoiled meat, left in a damp cellar. Room 103's door was slightly ajar. Inside, the wallpaper wasn't just peeling, it was scratched. Deep gouges ran vertically down the floral pattern as if something with long claws had tried desperately to get through. At the foot of the stripped bed frame, the carpet was stained a dark, rusty brown that didn't look like water damage. Leo raised his camera, his hand trembling slightly. "This is it," he murmured. "This is the shot." He stepped closer. That's when the whispering started. Not from one direction, but from everywhere. From the walls, the dripping ceiling, the very air, a chorus of faint, overlapping voices, too quiet to make out words, but thick with a terrible longing and a chilling hunger. It wasn't English. It sounded older, wrong. The subsonic hum surged, vibrating the floorboards under my feet, making my teeth ache. The light from the single grimy window seemed to dim. "Leo," I hissed, my voice tight with panic. "We need to go. Now." He didn't turn. He was focused on the viewfinder, zooming in on the scratched wallpaper. "Just one more shot, Ben. This is gold. This is real." "Leo!" I grabbed his arm. He yelped, swinging around. The camera clattered to the damp carpet. His face was ashen. "Did you hear that?" he breathed. The whispering had stopped. The hum had died. But the silence that followed was worse. It was the silence of something holding its breath, waiting. From the darkness of the hallway behind us came a new sound, a slow, wet, dragging, like something heavy with no legs, being pulled across the soaked carpet. Schlick, schlick, schlick. We didn't wait to see it. We ran. We stumbled back through the breezeway, shards of glass crunching under our boots, back into the marginally less oppressive gloom of the main lodge. We slammed the heavy wooden door to the guest wing shut, leaning against it, gasping. The dragging sound stopped at the other side. Then a single soft thump against the wood, like a head leaning against it, waiting. We barricaded ourselves in the lobby with overturned furniture, a futile gesture against whatever was out there, but it made us feel less exposed. Hours crawled by. The weak daylight bled away, replaced by the deeper shadows of late afternoon. The whispering started again, not in the guest wing this time, but seeming to emanate from the walls of the lobby itself. Faint, insistent, names. I thought I heard my own name woven into the sibilant chorus. "Ben, Ben, stay." Leo paced like a caged animal, jumping at every creak. "We can't stay here tonight," he said, his voice raw. "We drive out now. Screw the Jeep getting stuck. We walk." But the forest outside the boarded windows looked different at dusk. The trees seemed closer, their branches reaching. The path we'd driven up was swallowed by shadows, and the whispering, it was getting louder, clearer, no longer just names, phrases. Warm beds, hot supper, check in, stay forever. That's when I saw it, on the reception desk. The ledger lay open. I hadn't touched it since last night, but the page had turned. Below our names, written in that same faded brown ink, but looking wetter, darker, as if the pen had just lifted. Check out? Never. Leo saw it too. He made a small, broken sound in his throat. "It's not letting us leave," he whispered. "The rooms, they're not for sleeping. They're for keeping." The dragging sound started again, not from the guest wing door, from the staircase. Schlick, thud, schlick, thud. Something was coming down, slowly, deliberately. The whispering rose to a fever pitch, a cacophony of desperate, overlapping voices filling the lobby, seeming to come from the very dust in the air. Guests, New guests, sign the book, sign the book. The subsonic hum returned, stronger now, vibrating the glass and the remaining window panes, making the chandelier remnants tremble. Panic, pure and blinding, seized me. "The kitchen!" I yelled over the din, grabbing Leo's arm. "Back way out!" We scrambled towards the service corridor, past the dark maw of the dining room. The dragging sound was on the main floor now, accompanied by a new sound. A wet, rattling breath, like lungs full of stagnant water. It was close, too close. We burst into the kitchen. The back door was there, warped but intact. Hope flared. I grabbed the rusty handle, yanked. It didn't budge. Seized shut. Leo threw his shoulder against it. Nothing. The whispering was right behind us now in the doorway of the kitchen. The dragging sound stopped. The wet breathing filled the small space. I turned slowly. It wasn't Silas Thorne. It wasn't human. It was a shape, formed from the decay of the place itself. Shadows clung to it like tattered rags. Its form shifted, sometimes tall and gaunt like the photographs, sometimes hunched and dragging, its lower half seeming to melt into the filthy kitchen floor made of the same black mold and wet plaster and rust that coated the pipes. Its face, there was no face, just a suggestion of features in the swirling darkness, 2 points of dull ember-like light where I should be. It held no weapon. It didn't need one. The air around it shimmered with cold and that cloying, sweet rot stench. Its mouth opened, a ragged tear in the shadow stuff, and the whispering poured out, not from its throat, but from the walls, the floor, the very pipes. "Welcome home, rooms prepared, check in, check in, check in." Leo screamed, not a shout of fear, but a raw animal sound of utter terror. He turned and fled back towards the dining room, towards the front of the lodge. I followed, stumbling over debris. The thing didn't pursue. It just stood there in the kitchen doorway, a well of darkness, the whispering following us like a physical thing clinging to our backs. "Stay. Sign the book. Your names are there. You belong here now. Check in." We burst back into the lobby. Leo didn't hesitate. He sprinted for the main entrance, the grand double doors. He grabbed the handles, threw his weight against them. They groaned, buckled slightly, but held fast. Boarded shut from the outside. He pounded on the wood, screaming for help into the encroaching night. "Let us out! Please, let us out!" I looked back towards the kitchen corridor. The shadow figure hadn't moved. It just stood at the edge of the dining room, watching, waiting. The whispering had subsided to a low, persistent thrum, like flies buzzing in a corpse. "Check in?" It seemed to breathe with the building itself. Then I saw the ledger. It lay on the reception desk, open. The page had turned again. Below, check out never. 2 new lines had appeared, the ink glistening wetly, dark as fresh blood. Leo Vance, room 217, checked in. Ben Carter, room 218, checked in. As I watched, frozen, the ink on my name seemed to pulse. A wave of crushing fatigue, deeper than any I'd ever known, washed over me. The fear was still there, screaming in my mind, but my body felt leaden, impossibly heavy. The whispering softened, became soothing, almost maternal. "Rest now." It breathed from the walls. "Your room is ready. Warm bed, safe." The image of that bare, rusted bed frame in room 218 filled my mind, not as a place of horror, but as a haven, a place to finally stop running, to stop being afraid. The cold seeping into my bones didn't feel like threat anymore. It felt like cool sheets. The sweet rot smell was just the scent of old wood, of home. Leo had stopped pounding. He stood slumped against the doors, his face pressed to the wood. He turned slowly. His eyes were wide, but the panic was gone, replaced by a terrible, vacant calm. He looked at me, a small, serene smile touching his lips. "It's okay, Ben," he said, his voice dreamy, distant. "The bed, it's so soft. Come see." He turned back to the doors, not trying to open them, just leaning against them as if listening to a comforting voice on the other side. "Check in." The walls sighed. The fatigue pulled at me like chains. The whispering wasn't in the air anymore. It was inside my skull, gentle, insistent. "Your name is written. You belong. Rest." My legs gave way. I sank to my knees on the dusty lobby floor. The shadow figure was gone from the dining room doorway, but I felt its presence everywhere, in the groan of the floorboards, in the drip of the gutter outside, in the slow, inevitable decay of the walls. It wasn't a monster. It was the place, the Grand Willow Creek Lodge. Hungry, patient, and it had us. I didn't fight it. The weight was too much, the promise of rest too sweet. I crawled, not towards the exit, but towards the stairs. Each step groaned, but the sound was familiar now, comforting, like the lodge was welcoming me home. Halfway up, I looked back. Leo was no longer by the doors. He was walking slowly, peacefully, down the dark hallway towards room 217. He didn't look back. I reached the second-floor landing. The hallway stretched before me, the peeling wallpaper seeming to ripple in the gloom. Room 218's door stood slightly ajar. Moonlight, cold and clear now, streamed through the gap, illuminating dust motes dancing like stars. It looked warm inside, safe. My room. My name was written in the book. I belonged here. The whispering was a lullaby in my veins. "Check in?" It breathed, not from outside, but from within the very wood of the doorframe. "Check in?" I pushed the door open. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Bare floorboards, rusted bed frame, the window showing the moonlit tangle of the dead tennis courts. But the air was warmer. The smell of decay was gone, replaced by a faint scent of lavender and old paper. On the bare springs of the bed frame lay a single, crisp white sheet. Invitation. Welcome. Home. I stepped inside. The door swung shut behind me with a soft, final click. The whispering didn't stop. It just changed. It wasn't urging me anymore. It was celebrating. A chorus of dry, papery voices, the sound of pages turning in a vast, unseen ledger. Guests arrived, rooms filled, names secured. It came from the walls, the floor, the window pane, from the rust on the bed frame, from the dust on the sill. The Grand Willow Creek Lodge was no longer silent. It was alive, and it was satisfied. I didn't get into the bed. I just stood by the window, looking out at the moonlit wilderness that had swallowed the resort whole. The forest wasn't silent anymore. I could hear it breathing. A deep, slow rhythm that matched the pulse of the lodge itself. The subsonic hum was gone. In its place was the profound, ancient quiet, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant cry of an owl. A normal sound, but I knew better. That owl's cry echoed the whispering. "Check in," it seemed to say. "Check in." I turned from the window. The room was darker now. The moonlight had dimmed, but I could see the ledger. It lay open on the bare floorboards where no ledger had been before. My name glowed faintly on the page, the inks shimmering with that same dark warmth. Below it, the date wasn't October 27th anymore. It was blank, waiting. The checkout date remained. Never. The door to the hallway was gone. The walls had subtly shifted, the floral pattern of the wallpaper now forming intricate, spiraling patterns that seemed to draw the eye inward, downward. The air grew warmer, heavier. The scent of lavender deepened, masking the underlying sweetness of decay. It wasn't a room anymore. It was a cell, a beautifully appointed tomb. My tomb, our tombs. Leo's door was gone too, just seamless, whispering wallpaper where room 217 had been. I didn't scream. The urge was there, buried deep, but the lodge soothed it away like a mother calming a child. Rest, the walls breathed. You are safe now. You are home. My body felt lighter, yet utterly immobile. My thoughts slowed, thickened like honey. The memory of the outside world, the jeep, the city, the life before the coordinates, began to fray at the edges, dissolving like smoke. It felt distant, unimportant, a dream. This was real, the warmth, the quiet, the deep, resonant presence of the lodge settling around me like a comfortable blanket. My eyes grew heavy. The glowing ink of my name on the ledger was the last thing I saw before the darkness pulled me under. Not sleep, not death. Something in between, a permanent check-in. The last coherent thought that flickered before the warmth consumed me wasn't fear. It was a terrible, seductive understanding. The Grand Willow Creek Lodge wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was the ghost. A hungry ghost of a place, starved for life, for warmth, for the vibrant energy of guests long gone. It fed on the fear, yes, but more deeply, it fed on the surrender, on the acceptance of its embrace. Silas Thorne hadn't been the caretaker. He'd been the first course, the appetizer. The decades of silence weren't abandonment. They were digestion, waiting, starving. And now fresh names were on the list, warm bodies to fill the cold rooms, new voices to add to the whispering chorus that sustained the ancient rotting heart of the lodge. Leo's serene smile flashed in my mind. He was already part of it, already singing with the walls. As the final threads of my old self dissolved into the pervasive warmth, into the soft, insistent whisper that was now my own breath, my own blood, I understood the true horror. It wasn't the dragging thing, or the scratched walls, or even the names appearing in the ledger. It was the relief, the awful, seductive comfort of giving up, of letting the hunger of the place fill the hollow spaces inside you. The resort didn't just take your life. It took your wanting to leave. It made you want to stay forever. The last thing I felt, as the warmth became all-encompassing, as the whispering became my own heartbeat, was the smooth, cool texture of the ledger's leather cover under my vanishing hand, and the profound, chilling certainty that echoed not just in the dead air of room 218, but in the very stones of the Grand Willow Creek Lodge, in the rustling leaves of the devouring forest, in the silent, patient earth beneath it all. We weren't trapped. We were welcome. We were home. And the guest list, written in ink that never faded, in names that never left, would never, ever be complete. They were still checking in. And now, so were we. That brings this story to a close. Let's carry on to the next one. The last room at Hollowbrook Sanatorium. I never thought I'd end up living in a place like Hollowbrook. But when your bank account's bleeding red and your car is held together by duct tape and prayer, you stop asking questions about the why of a $250 a month room in a building that hasn't seen electricity since the Clinton administration. The listing was vague, just a grainy photo of a crumbling brick facade, ivy strangling the windows like green veins, and a single line: private room available. Utilities not included, no questions asked. I should have asked questions, but rent was due. My couch surfing grace period with my cousin had expired after 3 awkward weeks, and the only other option was sleeping in my rust-bucket Corolla parked behind a 24-hour laundromat. So I called the number. A man answered on the 3rd ring, voice dry as dead leaves scraping concrete. He didn't give his name, just said, "Be here by sundown, bring cash, and don't go." Past the 3rd floor, Hollowbrook Sanatorium loomed over the edge of Blackwater County like a rotten tooth. Built in 1898 as a rest home for nervous disorders, it later became infamous for its experimental electroconvulsive therapies and ice baths for hysterical women. By the 1970s, lawsuits piled up like corpses in the basement morgue, and the state shut it down after a patient set fire to Ward C during a restraint session. 16 people died. The building was never fully demolished. Too expensive, they said. Too haunted, whispered everyone else. My room was on the 2nd floor, tucked into what used to be the nurses' quarters. Small, yes, but surprisingly intact. One window with cracked glass, a rusted radiator under it, a narrow bed with a stained mattress, and a door that locked from the inside. The landlord, a gaunt man named Silas, I learned later, handed me a rusted key and a kerosene lantern. "Generators out back," he muttered, pointing toward a shed choked with weeds. "Fills up once a week. Don't waste it." Then he left without another word, his boots crunching on broken glass as he vanished into the dusk. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No traffic hum, no neighbor's TV bleeding through walls, not even crickets. Just the groan of old timber settling, the occasional skitter of something small in the walls. I lit the lantern, unpacked my duffel bag, and tried to ignore the smell. Damp plaster, mildew, and something faintly metallic, like old blood soaked into floorboards. I slept fitfully, dreaming of white-coated figures dragging a gurney down a hallway lined with barred doors. It started on the 2nd night. I was reading by lantern light, a cheap paperback thriller I'd picked up at a gas station, when I heard it, a soft, rhythmic tapping. Not from outside, from above, directly overhead. Tap, 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 like fingernails on wood. I froze, book half open in my lap. The sound stopped. I waited. Nothing. Probably just a raccoon in the attic, I told myself, or wind rattling loose shingles. Then came the whispering. Not words, not quite. More like breath, shaped into syllables, too low to decipher, drifting down through the ceiling vents. It sounded wet, labored, as if whoever or whatever was speaking had fluid in their lungs. I turned off the lantern, plunged the room into darkness, and pressed my ear to the floor. The whispering grew clearer, layered now. Multiple voices overlapping, some pleading, some laughing, one sobbing in short, ragged gasps. Not real, not real. Let me out, please. They're watching. I jerked back, heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't right. This wasn't just an old building settling. This felt intentional, like the voices knew I was listening. I didn't sleep that night. Sat hunched on the bed with my back against the wall, lantern burning low, jumping at every creak. Wake, dawn, exhaustion, 1. I woke to gray light filtering through the grimy window and the distant cry of a crow. The whispers were gone. Daylight made everything feel foolish. I laughed at myself while boiling water on a camping stove for instant coffee. Old buildings make noises. Rats, birds, structural decay. It all sounds sinister in the dark. I explored the second floor that morning, careful to avoid the stairs to the third floor like Silas warned. Most rooms were stripped bare or filled with debris. Collapsed ceilings, shattered furniture, peeling wallpaper hanging like flayed skin. One room still had a rusted gurney tipped on its side, restraints dangling from the frame. I didn't linger, but that night the tapping returned, louder, insistent. And this time it wasn't just above me, it came from the walls, from inside the closet, from under the bed. A syncopated rhythm, almost musical, like someone, or many someones, were drumming their fingers in unison. Then the scratching started, long, slow drags across the floorboards outside my door, pausing, dragging again, closer. I held my breath, eyes fixed on the door handle. It didn't turn, but the scratching stopped right outside. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then a soft, wet, sniffing sound, like a dog catching a scent. I didn't move, didn't blink. Minutes crawled by. Finally, the dragging resumed, fading down the hallway toward the stairwell. I waited until sunrise before opening the door. The hallway was empty, dust undisturbed except for my own footprints from the day before. No claw marks, no strange residue, just silence and decay. But I found something else. Taped to the inside of my door, hidden behind the peeling paint near the hinge, was a yellowed piece of paper, handwritten in faded blue ink. Room 317 is not empty. Do not go there. They are waiting. My blood went cold. Room 317, third floor. Silas's warning echoed in my head. Don't go past the third floor. Not don't go to the third floor. Past it, as if the third floor itself was the boundary. That afternoon, I confronted Silas. He was tinkering with the generator in the shed, oil smudged on his cheekbones. When I showed him the note, his face didn't change. Just wiped his hands on his overalls and said, "Found that, did you?" "What's in room 317?" I demanded, voice shaking. He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time. His eyes were pale, almost colorless, like river stones. "Nothing that concerns you," he said. "Stay in your room. Keep your door locked after dark. And whatever you hear, don't answer." He walked away before I could ask more. That night, I barricaded the door with the rickety dresser. Useless, probably, but it made me feel less like prey. The whispers returned louder now, weaving through the walls like smoke. They weren't just random phrases anymore. They were calling my name. "Alice, Alice, open the door. We know you're there." How did they know my name? I hadn't told Silas, hadn't written it anywhere. Panic clawed up my throat. I stuffed my ears with wadded-up socks, curled into a ball on the bed, and prayed for dawn. But the worst came at 3:17 a.m. I know because I'd been staring at my phone, watching the minutes crawl by. The lantern flickered violently, though there was no draft. The temperature plummeted. I could see my breath fogging in the air, and then clear as if spoken right beside my ear. "We're coming up." Footsteps, heavy dragging footsteps on the stairs outside, slow, deliberate, stopping on the second floor landing. Then one by one they approached my door, not scratching this time, knocking, 3 sharp raps, silence, then 3 more. I didn't breathe, didn't move. The knocking stopped, but the presence remained, I could feel it, a pressure against the door, like something leaning its weight against the wood, testing the barricade. The doorknob rattled. Once, twice. Then a new sound, a low, guttural moan so full of despair it made my bones ache. It wasn't human, not entirely. It held too much pain, too much hunger, too much wrongness. It lasted for hours, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning in that frozen dark. When the first gray light touched the window, the presence receded. The cold lifted. The moaning faded into the walls. I couldn't stay. I packed my bag with trembling hands, threw everything in my car, and drove until the gas gauge hit E. I didn't look back. But here's the thing, they don't tell you about places like Hollowbrook. You can leave the building, but it doesn't leave you. 3 nights ago, I woke to the smell of mildew and old blood. My apartment was freezing. On my bedroom wall, scrawled in something dark and flaking like dried rust, were 3 numbers, 317. And last night, as I lay awake listening to the silence of my safe, modern apartment, I heard it again, faint at first, then clearer. Tap, 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 tap. From inside my closet. They're not in room 317 anymore. They followed me home. And they're waiting.